And person K, identified in the Greenwich report as having been involved in multiple murders and attempted murders in the Northwest between 1989 and 1993. The recently published report details that so-called person K is believed to have been involved in the deaths of numerous people, including the assassination of Councillor Eddie Fullerton. Donegal Deputy Padraig McLaughlin was speaking during statements on legacy issues on Northern Ireland in the Dáil last night. He's calling on the Justice Minister to examine and act on the findings of the report.
This person is closely identified with the murders of Gerard Casey, Councillor Eddie Fullerton, Thomas Donaghy, Danny Cassidy, Malachy Carey, and the massacres at Castle Rock and Greysteel. Minister, I'm appealing to you and your department officials to deeply examine this report, particularly person K, a mass murderer with a licence to kill. He must be brought to justice.
A Donegal senator believes the terminology currently being used in child pornography legislation is harmful. Senator Eileen Flynn has moved to introduce a child trafficking and child sexual exploitation material amendment bill to address what she says is a very important language issue. She's proposed the legislation use the term child sexual exploitation material as opposed to child pornography. Senator Flynn told the Seanad that the change is necessary.
The term child pornography is not only incorrect, it is dangerous. Why? You heard the term child pornography and understand what it means. Why then is it dangerous when our laws already provide measures against it? The reason is that what is happening in these awful incidents is not pornography, it is abuse.
Plans to raise the retirement age are in doubt today. The Oireachtas Committee on Social Welfare has opposed plans to incrementally increase the age at which you can claim the state pension up to 68. There's concern that within the next 2 decades there won't be enough workers to adequately fund the state pension. But committee chair Dennis Naughton says they spent a number of months assessing 4 proposals from the Pensions Commission and felt the one suggesting an increase in the retirement age was not appropriate.
And we feel that it tied the hands of the committee in terms of looking at things outside of the very tight confines of the state pension. And we're recommending that the commission package 3, which looks at PRSI rates and exchequer contribution, should be the approach that should be taken, which as a result of that would not include a rise in the pension age.
Weather now, a mix of cloud, sunny spells and patchy drizzle in places this morning, with highest temperatures today of 8 to 10 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
If you have symptoms of COVID-19, it's important to self-isolate straight away. This helps stop the spread of the virus and protects other people. You should also get a COVID-19 test, either an antigen or a PCR test. Find out which test you should get and book it at hsc.ie. And please, don't attend work, school or social events if you have any symptoms. Stay at home and get a test. From the HSC, for us all.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hiya, good morning. It's another Wednesday, the 2nd of February. This one is 2022, 4 minutes past 9. You welcome along to the 9 till Noon Show here on Highland Radio. Loads to come up on the programme today. Including Paddy Diver. He'll be joining us. We'll also be having, I suppose, almost a final conversation. I'm not saying it is the last one, but just to find out precisely what the implications of that announcement was for the Leaving Cert yesterday. And there's so much more besides. We want you to stay with us and we want you to get involved. You call us on 07491 25000 or text or WhatsApp on 086 60 25000. Kieran O'Donnell will be in later as well, of course, previewing the Business Matters podcast, and we'll hear from a caller about her experience at Letterkenny University Hospital, and there's so much more in there. Your comments via email to comments@highlandradio.com. If you want to watch the programme today and see many of our guests as we interview them as well, you can hop onto our webpage, highlandradio.com. You'll see a watch live link there. Click into that and you can watch it in your browser, or go onto your Facebook or YouTube channel and watch us there. Right, the papers this morning, starting with the Inish Times, and this is a story we'll be talking about later on in the programme as well. Students with special educational needs attending Sculmora Buncrana are being taught in substandard facilities, according to one concerned parent. Anthony Harkin, whose son AJ is one of 20 pupils in the school's special needs unit, described the building the unit is currently using as damp, mouldy and lacking accessible toilets. As I say, he'll be joining us later on in the programme as well. The Donegal Post tells us that a former soldier from Donegal, a member of the Women of Honour group, which advocates justice for women and men who've suffered alleged sexism, bullying, sexual assaults and rape while serving their country, is now demanding a full independent statutory tribunal, not the toothless replacement announced last week. Retired CMSQ Karina Malloy told the Donegal Post that the group felt ambushed by Foreign Affairs and Defence Minister Simon Coveney over the terms of reference of an investigation into addressing their serious allegations and testimonies which were first raised in an RTE documentary last year. Well, they weren't first raised there, they've been raised since, I think you could go back to the 80s, but certainly in for this current era, programme certainly brought them that conversation back to the fore again. The Finn Valley Voice tells us that Finn Valley Youth Club closures are putting young people at greater risk of underachieving at school, drug misuse and alcohol misuse, according to a committee member of the Donegal Youth Club. John Byrne's been speaking to the paper and says that the last 2 years with COVID-19 have been extremely difficult for youth clubs in the area, and they are in jeopardy due to a lack of volunteers and of support. On to the Nationals now, and we read of major tensions between Fine Gael and the Greens. This is in the Irish Independent. They're apparently threatening to destabilise the coalition. Splits have emerged over a range of issues, including housing reforms, an army barracks, a gas pipeline and stalled road projects. 3 former Fine Gael ministers openly attacked Environment and Transport Minister Eamon Ryan last night. John Paul Phelan said Mr Ryan doesn't have any understanding of rural Ireland or anything outside the pale. Paul Keogh accused the Green Party leader of a sleight of hand, and Charlie Flanagan called it a gross discourtesy after Mr Ryan suggested Cahill Brua Army Barracks in Dublin could be turned into housing. And this was a remarkable announcement because he announced it as a fact, even though there was a review of it ongoing. But also these barracks are already home to many within the army. And I don't believe that was referenced in Eamon Ryan's statement. So it would be a case of would it chuck them out and create housing for others. The fresh coalition tension came after it emerged over the weekend that some Fine Gael backbenchers are threatening to withdraw support from government. They are angered by the shelving of several major national road projects by Mr Ryan because of funding constraints. Mr Ryan's spokesperson acknowledged some difference of opinion but insisted there was a positive working relationship with government partners. Are cracks beginning to show there, I wonder? It's amazing too, the things that really, motivate backbench politicians to speak out and threaten to undo a government, isn't it? Stalled road projects, I get that. Maybe the development of an army barracks, I get that. That's what's on the front of the papers, destabilising the government. It's not, say, for instance, and we'll be talking about it later, Micah, it's not health, the state of our hospital system. It's other things like that. It's peculiar on which hill people choose to fall on. The Irish Times, colleges warn over cruel levels of grade inflation, and this is, as I say, something we've been flagging on this programme for a while. High levels of grade inflation in this year's Leaving Cert exams run the risk of students on high points losing out on their chosen courses due to an increased use of random selection, higher education sources have said. The warning follows Minister for Education Norma Foley's announcement that this year's Leaving Cert will be held as a series of traditional exams this summer with additional choice and fewer questions. Significantly, the Minister said the overall marks would be no lower than last year's record-breaking set. So how does that work? And we're going to try and find that out a little later on in the programme. I mean, if someone across the board scores the equivalent of a D, say, for example, are we saying that those points will be elevated, or is it overall? How does that leave the competition for places? Of course, people last year deferred. Tens of thousands of them did, as did others the previous year. And then there's adults sitting there leaving cert as well. And all of those people going into an elastic amount of college spaces, it's going to be a problem. And of course, you can't then heap this on students next year or perhaps the year after. So this is the new level, the new high. But how do you work that out in the medium term, let's say, without disadvantaging some year? But anyway, higher education sources last night said that cruel, in inverted commas, level of grade inflation were not sustainable, especially for high points courses such as medicine, dentistry and pharmacy. Universities in many cases were forced to use a lottery to determine entry into high points courses last year. And you know, the reality is, and it's a cruel reality perhaps, that what you will have though is that maybe students that in a traditional sense would have achieved the points required to get into those high demand courses are being displaced by those that might have struggled to, so that natural selection isn't there. And will that reflect the quality of graduates then in years to come, and what impact might they have? It is kind of a ripple effect. The Irish Daily Mail tells us that the pension age is to stay at 66. At least that's a recommendation. The pension age should remain at 66 and not be increased to 68. This is according to an Oireachtas committee. People aged 66 or over could not reasonably be expected to keep working due to the physical and mental stress that their jobs have caused over many years, the Committee on Social Protection said in a report yesterday. The government previously stated it won't be able to pay for the dole and other social supports by 2040 unless the pension starting age was delayed. And yesterday's report contradicts advice the government's already received from the Pensions Commission. What was interesting in it as well, and I think this is important, is that they also recommended that the retirement age for people in physical labour would be reduced to, or would be retained or reduced to 65, which I think is also a significant addition, because of course, you know, you might have someone that leaves school at 17 or 18 or straight out of school, straight onto a building site or some other form of intensive labour. So they will work 40 years very, very quickly and be about 56. But you might have someone then that goes to college. They might not start full-time employment till 24, 25. And their 40 years would leave them at 66. So is it not only fair that those that may, you know, go into a tougher line of work in terms of the physical strain it might take on your body, that they should be able to retire a little earlier? I think that was a fair proposal in those proposals. We might talk about that a little later on as well too. Right, the Irish Daily Star tells us, and we may hear from the GRA later, that the Garda Representative Association has called for a full review of how better to protect unarmed officers when confronted with armed aggressors. The call was made by Garda Brendan O'Connor of the GRA following the sentencing of Stephen Dowling, 25, of Burren Road, Carlow at Letterkenny Circuit Court yesterday. The court heard how officers, many unarmed, put their lives on the line when Dowling went on the rampage in Glenties armed with a high-powered rifle. He got 8 years. And is there an issue with sentencing in this country? Because, I mean, it is very lucky no one was killed or seriously injured or left in a wheelchair or whatever the consequence might be. Shooting at patrol cars, or at least in the direction of patrol cars, shooting at buildings, or at least in their direction. If you can do that and get away with 8 years, it's not bad, is it? 8 years, you won't serve the 8, out in 4 or 5 maybe. Does the punishment fit the crime? In any of much of our sentencing, you do wonder. A follow-on from the story we were covering yesterday. This is in the Irish Daily Mirror. The calls have been made in the Dáil for the HSE, or they will be made in the Dáil today, for the HSE to stop sending in debt collectors to collect overdue fees from cancer patients and others. The Social Democrats are bringing a private member's bill asking the government to step in and tell the health service to change its policy. Co-leader Roisin Shortall said it was unconscionable that cancer patients are being pursued by debt collecting agencies for bills relating to the chemotherapy and radiotherapy treatment. Documents obtained from the Social Democrats' other co-leader Catherine Murphy and through Freedom of Information requests showed that the HSE had collected more than $500,000 a year through debt collectors in the past 3 years. Ms. Shortall told reporters, if you not have a medical card or private health insurance, every chemotherapy or radiotherapy appointment costs €80 to a maximum of €800 per annum. But what was said yesterday, that the cost for the state to bear that cost would be 30 million, I think. It's a non-brainer that people should not be being people should not be sent, regardless of a letter coming out from the HSC. That's maybe one thing. But to have debt collectors, and we know the tactics they employ, and we know the language they use, and we know people are still maybe going through their treatment or have been told midway through their treatment that things aren't going as planned. To be getting debt collection letters, it's a disgrace, isn't it? In the Sun today, finally, the government's looking at bringing in thousands of foreign workers to staff the embattled hospitality industry, just as it did years ago with builders, and it did with the hospitality industry in many of our towns and villages in the mid to late 90s. You know, I think the majority of people working in hospitality were, well, not the majority, sorry, many of those working in hospitality were foreign nationals. But anyway, moves to plug a 60,000 worker shortage came amid soaring food and drink prices, as one publican warns he'll have to wallop customers with a 70-cent hike in a pint. Spiralling wage, production, delivery and energy costs are already now paying over an average of €5 a pint. Now, of course, you can pay up to €9 for a pint in Dublin. I think people can get much better value in this part of the world, but I suppose they're taking an average. Okie doke, we'll be back with more after these.
The 9 till Noon Show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
What is it about Brennan's Bagels that people just can't get enough of? Well, according to Sophie in Dublin, a Brennan's Bagel BLT is simply OMG, whatever that means. One thing's for sure, chewy crust and soft inside. That's how our bagel bakers make them. However you slice it, anything baked is better with Brennan's. Brennan's. Today's bread, today.
In harsh winter weather, Watson Hire have all you need to stay safe and keep warm. There's great deals on coal, Calor gas, firewood and heating oil with free local delivery. Also electric, fan, halogen and oil-filled heaters. See in-store and the fuel store at watsonhire.ie. Great offers on winter clothing and boots. And for any hire items, there's still the weekend hire deal of 3 days for the price of one. All at Watson Hire, Kiltoy, Letterkenny, with free parking at the door.
Mix it up with the Dunstores Stir Fry Meal Deal and create your perfect stir fry for two for just €8.50. Choose from succulent prawns or Board Bia quality assured Irish beef or chicken. Pair it with fresh vegetables and a selection of authentic Asian sauces. Then serve with your choice of noodles or mixed grains. So many tasty possibilities, all for only €8.50. Dunstores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Deal applies to Dunstores Stir Fry Meal Deal.
For businesses, it's time to make up time. At Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles, we're ready. With HP finance from 3.9% for those who see opportunity, purchase contributions of up to €3,500 for those who make it happen. And for those who give complete focus, service plans from $9.99 per month. Test drive the Caddy Cargo, Transporter and Crafter at your local Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles dealer or visit volkswagenvans.ie. For those who build tomorrow, the time is now. Finance provided by way of hire purchase agreement from Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland and subject to lending criteria. Terms and conditions apply.
Call into Connolly's Volkswagen Letterkenny today to find out more, or visit connellys.ie.
Highland Radio Time Checks, brought to you by Letterkenny Shopping Centre, the centre of shopping in Donegal. Free parking and shopping all under one roof. Letterkenny Shopping Centre, bringing you the time at...
Just turning 19 minutes past 9. We welcome onto the programme now Paddy Differ. Paddy, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
How are you keeping?
Not too bad, but frustrated, the same as everybody else say.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. I mean, that's what we're talking about. It's the start of February now. We're into 2022. What is it, like pushing 6 months since the historic march in Dublin. It seems like some progress has been made, but at the end of the day, you know, if you're directly affected by it, and you are, and thousands of others as well, it feels like we're no further on sometimes too.
No, definitely does. But like at the same time, the reason I kind of went on the thing is because my frustration, to start off on one side of stuff, is the frustration of the council. We've 6 meetings cancelled. That's my thing. A council official went out and I more or less said I shouldn't be saying that it's a shambles. I think it is a shambles, Greg, and I'll explain why. you get 6 meetings cancelled. And at the same time, we want answers of, if that's 5,000 emergency money is used to fix the next chimney, or people want to walk under the house, bad enough is the scheme taking so long. But when you kind of more or less run past the front door quick to make sure, just in case the chimney's going to come down, we want answers of when this is coming. Is there a programme lined up for it? And they're on a house fight. They're on a house fighting. That's doing my head in.
Now, I believe that 5,000 emergency fund is it comes from the Department of Housing, but not the council. But that doesn't mean
that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. No, when the 5,000 is passed by the government, it's going to the council, and the council then allocate it to the people. So what we want to know is, I phoned up the council to find out what's the plan. Is there have they got a programme lined up for it of how it be allocated, what way it goes? And there's no answer. So, that's what they should be getting their answers ready for, instead of on house fighting. And that's being honest, and anybody thinks any different, or like a council official went to the newspapers and said that I shouldn't be saying these things over social media. Well, I think they should be using their energy and getting their ducks lined up in a row, instead of and getting these meetings passed on. You can't have 6 meetings cancelled. It is a shambles.
I mean, at the very least, you want these issues to be being discussed by those that are elected and paid to do so.
Well, that's their job. At the same time, some of these people their names only seem to come out whenever the council's called out, and then they come out and rant in. But what are they actually doing in the back? What are they actually doing in the background? Listen, being honest, it's not against. I've got anything against the council. There's plenty. I'm not going to start naming names in case I forget some. There's plenty of people I respect on there, and I massively respect the Donegal County Council for putting a stance on us here and turning around and standing up for the people and sticking to the prayer tight and saying they're not going on ahead with applications until it's sorted. So I have massive respect for them on that side of stuff. But the house fighting is a shambles. It is a disgrace, and it has to stop.
Yeah. In terms of foundations being included in the scheme, I thought it was announced on this programme. I look back at the tape. I think Charlie McConalogue said foundations would be included. And then, as it turns out, it's still being looked at and they're not included at this point. I mean, it's crucial, isn't it, that foundations are included? I mean, if you were doing an outer leaf, that's controversial enough. But if you were putting that on foundations that were going to go themselves, I mean, you're throwing good money after bad.
Well, you see, that's the thing. When we were in the working group, and when I was on even 7 or 8 months ago now, we were the ones on there demanding this here. We were the ones demanding, listen, we can't be building a house on top of bad foundations. There's new stuff up there called priorite. There's stuff we didn't know about it, and that's other sulphide minerals, and they have to be addressed, and it can't keep going on. But my frustration towards the council as well is they had a representative in there ready to back our corner, but didn't back our corner. We were unfinded, and the person in question wasn't standing up for this here, and now the scheme has collapsed. Now the scheme stopped because we're going back to the same thing that we should have been addressed way before 6 or 7 months ago. But at the same time, the scheme can't continue without priority being on it, because as the more knowledgeable I've got on it, and I'm just learning like a lot of use. But at the same time, there are smarter people out there in the Department of Housing and engineers and all the rest. They know this here straight away. Sure. It's in Canada. It's all over Canada. They wouldn't even entertain anything to do with priority. Germany's the same. The European standards are the same. We're a million miles behind it. I said absolutely. I mean, it cannot continue without it. And my problem is, again, with the county council side of stuff, when they didn't do their job in the working group, I hope now that they do. Because as we speak now, Greg, they have never been conversed with us, like myself or Michael. And that's not good enough, because we've got all the questions.
And just to be clear and fair, Paddy, are we sure they haven't met with Michael Doherty? There was no meeting with him last week. I thought I read somewhere that may have met with the council last week.
No, he made a met with Mark McDermott, but there's no meetings with the council. I phoned the council looking to get talking to top officials and asking questions and left the numbers.
Are you saying that there's been no, throughout all of this, there's been no meeting between some council officials and maybe a couple of councils and representatives from the Mike Action Group? That has not happened at all.
No, I'm not saying some. I'm not saying some. You can turn around and then say maybe 2 or 3.
No, I mean a formal meeting. I'm on about whereby it's even a public forum, where it's a public meeting where there's an exchanging of views like that. A formal meeting hasn't taken place
all the councillors all the councillors that was on there, like in that last meeting that was cancelled, and Meek Action Group have never met at one stage.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, that hasn't happened.
No, that hasn't happened, and that's not good enough. Like going forward, I could fire you out there questions that like the homeowners of Meek Action Group, like Michael Gardai has his work done. He's a Trojan of a man, and he knows more stuff than any, more or less, than a lot of councillors. So they should be using him. And he should be in most of their meetings if they want to go forward, because they're the ones in talks with the Department of Housing. So if they're in talks with him, they should be seeing the concerns and what his plan is. And you know what? The main plan is, and the main thing is, it's no good without this here is no good without a project manager. Listen, there's no good without a project manager, and that means a timeline, a rollout scheme, and things to go. Like being honest, it just so happens that Charlie McConaughey ended up phoning me last night, and that's the first time. A long time he's phoned me, but I gave him the courtesy, answer the call. He asked me where he at. I says, I'm in Dublin. He says, do you want to meet for a coffee? I said, I will. And we went for coffee this morning, and the next thing, this is what I relayed to him. I says, Charlie, it's no good. I says, the council said something to your department. Dara Breen says something tomorrow, and you say something here. I says, like, where's the plan? I said, we've got the problem. I says, we've got the SCSA. We're all waiting on that now in February. I said, then you should push it on them that they're waiting on them in the legislation. I said, but where's all the questions in the background? The ducks lined up in a row. And then, and that means a project management team. I said, who is it? And he's off, there's a man appointed. And I said, what's his name? I'm not sure of his name. I said, there's a Pater Espy, because as far as I'm concerned, this Pater Espy fella has only been used as a project manager on the engineer side of stuff. I said, so without a team, this is no good going forward. And I said, listen, Greg, the meeting lasts we were chatting for about 40 minutes, and I said to him, Charlie, the homeowners need hope. And at the minute, I says, you're killing it. Like, I says, it shouldn't be the government against the people. I said, or the Donegal County Council against the people. I said, this is a humanitarian crisis. I said, it needs sorted.
Did you come out of that meeting with Minister McConaughey any further on in your own head?
Listen, that's a topical politics kind of meeting. No,
I was going to say, at least was the coffee okay? But I'm not making light of it. But it's frustrating.
Listen, it's definitely frustrating. But I could see the frustration on his side as well. I don't want to be using Charlie as a
pardon my ignorance, Paddy. But say for instance, if we have say there's a major road project that's ongoing. You have contractors involved in that. You've got the council involved in that. You've got other parties involved in that. And then you might employ another company that overviews, that oversees all of that and is responsible for how it works, liaising between various agencies that are involved in that. Is that not what we're talking about? That what we need for this to deal with this crisis?
Well, that's exactly what we have. Listen, we've had a person on there and helping us, and he is a project manager of everything, and he's been helping us all along, give us a real good way of a project team lines up, something like the big companies. I'm not going to mention his name on here, but at the same time, they wouldn't really entertain him. We kept trying to push him; they wouldn't really entertain him. But it's never going to work without that. And I don't care if it's a person we put forward or a person they put forward. As long as he's good as a job, that's what we need. What Charlie did turn around and says the testimony. I says, Charlie, don't mention testimony to me. I said, everybody's getting it back. He says, that's not the thing. But he says, listen, the emergency money and the testimony is going to be passed now in 2 weeks' time. I said, you're telling me that in 2 weeks' time, the testimony is going to be passed on to the Donegal County Council. That's 5,000. So anybody, I says, like myself, I says, somebody's unsafe. I'd rather take it down. I says, the plaster right over my front door is all both. I says, it's ready to come down. I says, so I can get that scaffolded, get that all chipped off and get that replastered and make sure it doesn't come down and hit my daughter on top of the head. He says, in 2 weeks' time, it's going to be passed on to the Donegal County Council, and then they administer it the way they're going to pay it out. Well, you see, that's what my problem is again. Has the Donegal County Council got their programme lined up now? If it's paid out in 2 weeks' time, Greg, that means in 3 weeks' time I should be able to get my money.
Yeah, and this is the importance then. Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, and what I mean by that is I start to understand clearly this is the importance of council meetings, because questions and discussions will be able to ask, like, are we ready now to start administering this money as soon as it's released from the government to the council? And we don't know that because these meetings weren't ongoing.
Exactly. This is why I'm calling them a shambles, and they are. And no disrespect to the chairperson of Jack, because I know he's trying his best. And at the same time, on Frank's defence, to an extent, some of the questions that he's asking, I would love to hear them answered as well. And he does, you know what I mean? But it's just, listen, I don't like the way he goes about asking them, so that's a different story. Let me see what else is.
So, in terms of where you feel it's at, and maybe you got more out of the conversation with Charlie McConalogue. We're getting bits, so we'll get the 5,000 emergency funds, but we don't fully know how that's going to be administered or how long that might take. The refunds on the testing, that's coming down the line, but the rest of it, the IS 465 and it being, it being widened out to make sure that people aren't excluded from the scheme who should be in it, and when the legislation will actually be passed. Were you given any, is this September date still there, or is it sooner, or is it later?
The way Charlie Taylor put it to me was, he says, listen, if emergency money is passed there and a house is safe to be living on, and you can get it ready. If the SCFS comes out now in February and it's passed off at 150, 160, 170, whatever it is, and the people know that they can get their house fixed for 100%, and the Darrell Breen doesn't interfere with it, and he says, and I don't expect him to. He says, I can't answer that question. He says, but I don't expect him to, and I don't expect a sliding scale to be on it. He says, if the two of them things is done, he says, surely the people would rather they got a house that stands the test of time, which I understand, I'm right, and this legislation's passed. And I says, right, I understand. I says, I don't like it. I says, but I do understand it. I says, so you're telling me now, I says, that the people that's already passed for demolition, that they can go on ahead, and they're going to get into the new SCSA when it comes on ahead, and all the rest. That's more or less, in a nutshell, the way he's put it. He expects these two things to be done. If people think they get 100% and people think they get emergency money, surely they can wait the lock of months, he says, until this legislation's passed for the prayer date. That is more or less, he says, I would love to pass it. I tell him, Charlie, it is everywhere. How this is not. I says, and I'm not chill, am I right here? I says, Department of Housing, Darrell Breen, if he says, yes, prayer time needs to go on it, then it goes to stage 2. Then it goes to ministers and all the rest. I said, so at the minute, as far as I'm concerned, Darrell Breen is holding this here up because he has to say yes first. And how can nobody, yes is the only answer here. There's no other way out of it. What he turned around and says was, I said to him, my big problem, Charlie, I said, my young fellow was driving down the road actually from Morgana, and there's a new house being built, and my young fellow at 14 years of age says, well, how come that their house is there newly built? He says, how do they know they haven't got Micah? Now, a 14-year-old son says that. And as I said to Charlie, this is a big problem, Charlie. I said, there's new things going out there. There's blogs, ICF, or whatever way you call it, and all the rest. I said, me, myself, personally, I never want to see another block again. I said, I'm going timber framed. And he says, oh, listen, he says, timber framed. He says, there is 25% of the population going timber framed from now on. And that's the way he's saying too. And I said, but you see, it shouldn't be, Charlie. I said, they should be allowed to go whatever they want. I said, but the standards is not there. The standards is...
But we still don't know at this point. There's no guarantee, and I put the question to Darragh O'Brien myself. The government still don't know if defective blocks are being used to build new houses, or if micro-affected houses or pyrite or whatever it might be houses are being repaired with defective blocks. We don't have seemingly a system in place to ensure that you can say with absolute certainty that that's not happening, which is crazy.
No, that is crazy. And listen, I was chatting to Jack Murray the other day as well, and I was saying to him, I said, Jack, right, fair enough. You think now you can keep going on ahead with your meetings, right? If you just keep going on ahead with your meetings, the last thing that the people want to hear now is, listen, we're exploring new things. We'll wait further detail. Get your ducks in a row, and if you think you can't get meetings because Frank's not there, double the meetings, treble the meetings. You know what I mean? Get the meetings done when he's not there, if that's what it takes. Because we can't have you on there squabbling away and all the rest, and then somebody turn around and say, we'll wait further detail. The government are passing you off £5,000 to every homeowner out there in 2 weeks' time. In 3 weeks' time, I expect to get my 5,000. But I know rightly I'm not going to get it in 3 weeks' time because they haven't got a team lined up. Could you honestly tell me, Greg, that you think that they've got staff even trained already for this? I don't think so.
I mean, in the absence of this stuff being made publicly available or being discussed at a meeting and clarified and questions being answered, we have to presume not. I mean, hopefully there'll be a pleasant surprise, but I get where you're coming from. It's a valid question. Did you mention the foundations to Minister McConalogue?
Oh I did. I did. Surely to God. I said, sure, listen, we said it. We said it before. I said, you said on Highland Radio, I said the foundations would be tested. I said, you said it. I said, Darragh Breen said it. I said, but on the paperwork it says no. How's that? And hey, listen, come here. Being honest, no point me saying any different. See, I could not get that straight answer, and I tried it 3 times. So I just couldn't. I just says, listen, I so foundation, and then it just goes back to the whole legislation. Listen, I couldn't get that answer. You know yourself how they swing it around. But at the same time, that's just the way it is. Like, but at the same time, we need like.
Well, what is next though, Paddy? Because it's kind of it must be hard to get your head around it because there seems light at the end of the tunnel, but then it seems so slow, and then it seems a constant battle, and then you know there are question marks about whether if money is available, who's going to administer it, how that would work. What's next for the likes of you with this campaign, Paddy? Or what is it? Is it all we can do is sit and wait?
Well, there's something the witness shouldn't be done. The people are sitting in the houses. I know I know, as I said to Charlie, there's 80-year-old people. There's 7-year-old old age pensioners. There's people out there this scheme is not going to somebody has to control this here for them. Is there a programme for this here? And the only way we're going to get all these answers, Greg, as a Make Action Group and the Donegal County Council are meeting weekly, and after every week or whatever it is, the public get to know what was said and what progress has been done. Because at the minute, as far as I'm concerned, at the minute, the Donegal County Council staffs, they're not trained. Do they even know where these 2 liaison office is going to be? I hear there's going to be one in Letterkenny, one in Carndonagh. Are these even lined out? I want them, if they could stop their fighting and get all these answers done, then we could be moving forward. It's not just the government holding us here back here now at the minute. At the minute, our Donegal County Council need to step up as well, but they have to converse with either myself or Michael Doherty or Mag or whatever, preferably. You know, I mean, Mag. They have to. That's going to be no good. Mag converses with them. They can go to the Department of Housing, and we can start getting places. Because
and also, too, there can be meetings between a member of MAG and a member of the council, whatever. But I think it's important that meetings are held where minutes are kept. You know, where it's very formal, because that's how you can say, well, we had a public meeting or we had a formal meeting in January and such was said and nothing's happened. You know, individuals meeting, it's grand and that's fine for passing information, but I think what we're looking at here is, you know, formal meetings that are on the record, that have minutes, that people can say, well, that was said at that meeting, and that means it's more likely to either be progressed or you can call people up if it doesn't happen.
Listen, you're 100% right, but like some people might not want to hear this here, but I'll have no problem saying it. I've noticed this here happen a lot on Frank's side. He's asked questions one week, and when I hear him back in the next meeting, he says, I asked these questions, I expect them answered, or I asked these files, I expect the files. Like, that's why he blows the fuses, because he's not getting them answers. He's not getting them answered. And the same would happen to me if I went into the meetings. And I'm not defending some of the way he goes. I'm definitely not defending some of his actions after it. But his questions to start off with, when they're asked one week, they should be ready the second week. And if we were on, or if Mag was on, they'd expect the same.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, everyone's, you know, I think everyone wants the one thing. You know, there's different ways of going at it, but everyone wants the one thing. Listen, Paddy, thanks for that. Are you looking after yourself? I mean, obviously, you know, you're flat out working up and down the road. You know, you're clearly a very passionate man. This has been going on for a long time. I hope you're looking after yourself too, Paddy.
No, listen, I ain't no bother. I'm going away certainly for over to Poland for 4 days now, so I'm on holiday, so I'm looking after myself rightly. Don't be worrying about me.
Leave the phone behind you and just go and relax.
One other thing, the children in Letterkenny there, they're doing a bit of a protest in the school. Listen, it's no big massive thing. It's a sad thing. It's sad that the children have to decide to do this. They want to have their voices heard. So I think us as not as if it's a big march for like Lufford or Buncrana or Derry or Dublin or nothing like that, but anybody's about, anybody free, should go and support them.
Where is it, Paddy? Do you know where and when?
I'm not a husband.
Right, listen, we'll find it out. We'll find it out.
There's a couple of hundred people, and they're doing it in a school. I think they're doing it at a school in Letterkenny. But if anybody out there could look to see if they could they're looking for a drone, they're looking for a marquee. If anybody sees anybody got there, and anybody's on a time, should go and support them. I'll be there myself. But thanks for that, Greg.
All right, listen, take care of yourself, Paddy. Enjoy Poland whenever you get away. That's Paddy Diver there, spokesperson. Well, not spokesperson. Well, I don't know how he's a campaigner, of course, a campaigner involved with MAG and and all that side of things. 086 60 25,000, the WhatsApp number, the text number 07491 25,000. I've listened to Paddy on the radio for a good while now, and he's doing stellar work, but he needs to mind his health as well. It's funny you should say that, because that was a point I made, and he says he is. The government have to regulate the quarries, concrete and block industries, regulated, not prevaricate. The mica people are being fobbed off, and that is a fact, they say. Donegal County Council, I'm waiting almost 3 years for a response to an issue with my underfloor heating. Hi Greg, listening to your interview with Paddy Diver this morning, isn't it obvious that the accountability of County Council officials need to be returned to the council, not left as being responsible to central government? Our elected county councillors are nothing but lame ducks rubber stamping the will of the concerned minister. I'm sure they would argue strongly against that, but you're entitled to your opinion too. Paddy, very stressed in his voice, needs to take care of himself. I think some people, I'm kind of like that a wee bit. I'm always sort of on the go. I think some people, that's just the way they are. It's all a delaying tactic, says this texter, as the building of houses is going to go burst as things are out of hand. Inflation is through the roof. Whole thing soon going to go belly up. I think, that's something we can worry about, the state of the building industry and the economy generally and the situation there. I think if there's finally a scheme in place that is satisfactory to most, or as many as is possible is probably about, then we can maybe talk about how that scheme might work in the general sort of construction space. When is the €15,000 rent allowance going to be available? Can we use this money to renovate our garages because we can't get somewhere to rent? That is, as far as I'm aware, currently being discussed and ironed out. The people being able to use that €15,000 to convert accommodation for themselves. I don't think the decision has been made in that regard yet. By the way, I just want to say this in case you're out in the roads. If you're passing Woodland School, the road at Woodland School, apparently there's a bad oil spill on that stretch. Right, stay with us on the 9 till noon show. Lots to come.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by Bluebird Care, providing nurse-led home care services in Donegal. Call Bluebird Care 91296562 and bring care home.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price sale. Get up to 50% off everything in store. All kitchen and bathroom tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware, all cladding, everything's reduced. It's our biggest ever sale. The Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price January sale. Stores nationwide. Sale extended until Sunday.
Is debt getting in the way of you enjoying your life? A home reversion may help you. Find out more at plus.ie or contact Advice First Financial, your local qualified financial advisor at advicefirst.ie. Home Plus, because retirement is for living. Residential Reversions Limited, trading as Home Plus, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Advice First Financial Limited, trading as Advice First, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Donegal County Council want to hear your views and invite you to get involved in the preparation of an outdoor recreation strategy for Donegal. A number of online consultation events are running across the county from the 31st of January to the 9th of February and online survey until the 22nd of February. Sign in and have your say. Visit donegalcoco.ie to find out more.
Do you suffer from heartburn or abdominal pain? Do you experience frequent constipation or diarrhea? If you need or are waiting for an endoscopy consultation, then why not come see us at Kingsbridge Private Hospital Sligo, where we provide excellence in private healthcare. We are approved by all private health insurers and our specialised consultants are ready to see you. Avoid long journeys and longer waiting lists. Visit kingsbridgeprivatehospital.ie for more information. Because life matters.
All right, Anthony joins us on the programme now. He is a concerned parent. Good morning, Anthony.
How are you doing, Greg?
I'm all right. Thanks for joining us. Right, okay. You are expressing your concerns as it relates to special needs students and the facilities for them at Scullmora School in Buncrana. Tell us what the current situation is, Anthony, and what's bothering you.
Well, the current situation is they're off campus. They're in a building. I know it's about 400 yards away from the main school, but the building itself, it's just a house, Greg, and it's simply not fit for purpose. It's not wheelchair accessible, and there's clear damp and mold issues, and it's not a good place for the kids to be.
All right, so it's only special needs students that are in this lake house.
That's right, yeah.
And why was that decision made to move those particular students off the school grounds?
Well, originally it was down to COVID, which, it was what it was at the time. Everybody was concerned, and it was only supposed to be temporary.
Mm-hmm.
But we learned there just before Christmas. I happened to be in there, and I was talking to the teachers, and it became clear that there was no plans to move them back. They were going to be staying here at the lake house, or there at the lake house, until this new building was finished. That they have, I think they have planning permission.
Okay, so what has changed as far as you're aware? And I want to talk about the condition of this house in a moment. But what has changed as it relates to capacity on the school grounds between now and before COVID? Like, why now is there no space for the special needs students compared to pre-COVID?
Well, the only information I got off the school was they have over 800 students, and they don't have the room for the special needs students back in their original facility.
Yeah, but I don't understand them moving a whole cohort of students that all have special needs. Why is it all of they that are moved out of the school? Presumably integration and all that type of stuff is important on many levels. I don't even have to go through them. Like, I don't understand why one group of students, it's the ones that are moved out of the school and not back in again.
They were just the easy. It seems like they were just the easiest group to move because they have no need to move from classroom to classroom. They had 2 dedicated classrooms in this. It was the old nunnery on the school site.
Yes.
Beautiful building, high ceilings, wide doorways, like lots of space. It's what we were shown when we viewed schools, and it was just, this is definitely the place for AJ, for us.
Mm-hmm.
And, I happened to be in the lake house yesterday because AJ had a seizure and I had to pick him up at lunchtime, and I didn't want to be in the building myself. It's just not a nice place to be, and I had to walk around, and you can clearly see the mold on the walls, and that there was paneling done last year to hide the damp. There's a section of the floor in the main classroom that's given away, and it's been covered by a sheet of ply. There's no room. There's another child as well as AJ in a wheelchair, and he is able to, get himself about, but he doesn't have any room. They're like this, stuck in a cage compared to where they were. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, sorry to go back to why they were moved, though. Like, many schools are operating a situation where students in secondary schools will go in, for example, and it might be the same in others, but they'll go in and they'll stay in the one classroom all day. Do you know what I mean? And they don't move between classrooms for obvious reasons with what's been going on of late. I still don't fully get, and unfortunately the schools released a statement which I'll read, but they won't explain to me. I can't understand why it's the special needs students that have been moved out, all of them, moved to this other facility. As I say, in terms of integration, and that doesn't make much sense to me.
There's 16 of them, Greg, in AJ's pod. Now, as well as not being integrated into the mainstream school, my son is segregated from his own peers within that pod because the rooms just aren't big enough. So he and another child are in a room of their own for the most part of the day. They were just the easiest group to move. It's always the way, Greg, in my opinion. The most vulnerable are the ones that get kicked. And I think as a community, the age we live in now, it's just not acceptable anymore. This is pushing us back 20, 30 years to when you used to tuck them away in a corner, hide them, almost.
What age is AJ, if you don't mind me asking, Anthony?
15.
How old?
15.
And what does he think of all of this?
AJ's non-verbal.
Okay, but do you, in terms of his behaviour, or how you can understand him, Anthony, is that possible? Have you seen any change in him? Do you feel it's affecting him as much as?
Well, you see, Greg, AJ never made it in to the original.
Okay, so this is what he knows. Yeah. Okay.
This is what he knows, but I mean, I can tell you, Greg, I was talking to the staff before Christmas, and that's when the alarm bells rang in my head. I just happened to ask because I didn't realise at the time what was going on when they were going back, and I could see it in their faces. Like, I know that the staff in the special needs unit are fighting for the rights of those kids to get back to where they should be. But, I mean, they're blocked at every turn, so it's up to us as parents to step up and fight the corner for them. And the community as well. You know,
yeah, but I mean, obviously, COVID is being blamed for this decision.
COVID was being blamed.
It still is. I can tell you, after the statement in front of me, it still is. I want to read one line to you, Anthony, just to see if you believe, in your opinion, this to be the case. I'll read the full statement. The accommodation in question was adapted to suit the needs of the students being placed there. Do you feel it was adapted to suit the needs of the students?
No. It was adapted at one stage as, I believe, an outreach centre or a daycare centre. But it's not. And I would like somebody, an independent body, to go in there and do an inspection. Because I don't see how they couldn't have...
I'll tell you what I would do.
On site.
I would ring. I would contact the is it the HSA, whoever's responsible, that goes in and inspects places for their suitability, you know, as it relates to COVID. I could ring, I can't remember, I think it's the HSA. I could ring them or Public Health and ask them to come in and inspect this building. If I felt I wasn't safe in the building, they have to come in and do that. Maybe that's what needs to be done with this building to see if officially if it's adequate for the needs of the students that have been placed there.
Quite frankly, I'm not happy about being on the radio with you today, Greg. I was communicating with the school, and I was hoping we could just...
This was your last course of action. I get that. Let me read the statement to you and to our listeners. Skolmore has worked very hard in terms of opening and operating special classes, and in the last 4 years has opened 5 units. These classes were opened to facilitate students with special education needs and their families in the local community rather than travelling to Letterkenny. At the time of opening, we were promised additional accommodation by the EDS, which has not yet arrived, so we have to make the best of the facilities available. The good news is that the school has secured funding and approval for building of a new complex with special class units. Now, that's going to be a long way away. But anyway, this is involved. Sorry, let me just finish this and I want to come back to you. This has involved a lot of time and extra work, but the plans are approved and hopefully it will move to construction stage very soon. They say that all time Skolmora has worked very hard to ensure that all students, and especially special class students, get the best education possible within the resources available. When our school was required to socially distance students, alternative accommodation had to be sought. We were fortunate to secure off-site accommodation with garden facilities so near to the school. The accommodation in question was adapted to suit the needs of the students being placed there. This is a temporary arrangement and will be revisited when school COVID guidelines are revised by the Department of Education and Skills. Now, the problem is there, and Tony Houlihan is going to tell an Oireachtas committee today that he believes that COVID guidelines in schools should remain in place for the foreseeable future. So that means AJ and his classmates are facing schooling in this building, which you believe is not fit for purpose, I think, for the foreseeable future. Anthony?
Not only is it not fit for purpose, I mean, it's off campus. You know, AG went to School Easton in Buncrana, the national school, and they had it perfect. They integrated the classes with the mainstream classes, and it was good for both sides, you know. It's going the opposite way. There are alternatives for Skolmora to put prefabs on site. It's a big campus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wouldn't even if the facilities were good off campus, I would still want our kids back on the school grounds.
Can I ask you, as far as you're aware, do you know if there are special needs students currently being taught in Skolmora, or have they all been moved to this house?
No, I mean, I don't have that information. I have
okay.
The autistic. There are specialised classes for children with autism, and I had heard that they'd have been moved as well. But I haven't really looked into that. I'm more concerned about AJ and his.
No, of course, but I hope you can understand why I'm asking, Anthony, because that might help when we're trying to tease out why this decision was made. And when it might be reversed, and all students can be taught as much as is possible in the same vicinity, in the same Listen, we've made our inquiries. We'll stay on it. Miss Rosaline Grant is the author of this email. She says, personally, I would have been delighted if our new complex had been completed by last September, and have been assured by the Board of Management that will continue to do their very best to secure the new 11-room extension as soon as possible. But, soon and as soon as possible, that doesn't help your situation. Anthony, I mean, do you look at your options? Are you comfortable sending AJ into this facility?
I'm not, Greg. I mean, when we first looked at putting AJ into secondary school, obviously we thought we were going to be sending to Little Angels, a great facility I'm sure you know well in Letterkenny.
Yep.
And then when we viewed the facilities at school, we just couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe how lovely the facility was and how AJ was going to get to go back in with his classmates from the national school. It's like, school is a good school. It is a good school, and the principal has the school's best interests at heart. But there's no two ways about it. They've pushed the special needs kids under the bus to make way for the mainstream students.
Here's the comments from another parent. Good morning, Greg. My child Jack is one of these children in Skolmore. He has a severe learning disability and struggles academically. He thrives on social interaction with his peers, which was one of the reasons I chose to send him to Skolmore. He had a fantastic first year in a lovely new classroom in the main building and got to experience secondary school just like all other teenagers, but unfortunately due to COVID they were moved. My understanding was that this was to be temporary, but now it seems that they have to wait for new building before they'll be moved back to the school, which I fear will never be finished in Jack's time. The teachers and SNAs in Skolmore are amazing and go far and beyond their job. It is the building that is not suitable, and the children are being excluded and isolated away from their peers, which is vital in their learning. That's from Liz, and that's what works best for her. I would prefer a better explanation as to what COVID measures have forced the movement of these children and what COVID measures changing would allow for their return. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to put those questions directly to a decision maker, but I think certainly in the interests of openness and transparency, that those are very important questions, Anthony, for the likes of yourself and Liz there, that need to be asked and need to be answered.
The fact of the matter is, Greg, our kids could be moved back tomorrow, but they've repurposed their rooms. That's the top, middle and bottom of it.
Unfortunately, I can't ask that question, Anthony. But listen, we're going to continue to try and get an interview to I mean, I think parents, everyone deserves specific answers on such an important issue. Anthony, listen, thanks for your time this morning. As I say, and as you've said yourself, I know this is not the road you wanted to go down to. You've tried to avoid it, but here we are. And we'll follow up on it and see. A caller says, my daughter attends the same school and I can't even get learning support for her. She says you're only a number. Right, leave us with it, Anthony. Best wishes to everyone, and we'll see what we can do. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for your time, Greg.
All right, take care. All right, that was Anthony there. If you're affected by that as well, and you have a view, 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or maybe you have a better understanding of why this decision was actually made and what would need to change for that decision to be reversed so that these children could go back and start to learn with their peers in the main school. As I say, we'll continue to follow up on it as much as we can. All right, it is the 9 till noon show. Another packed 2 hours to come. Stay with us if you can. You can listen online or you can listen on air, or watch online. We are having issues at the moment from an external server as it relates to streaming. So some of you will be struggling to listen via our website or via Alexa or Google, for example. But that is something that's being worked on at the moment. We'll be back with more after the news and obituary notices.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
Fuse box gone haywire? Water pressure too weak? Boiler finally gone kaput? The good news is, there's a local hero for that. Boilers, plumbing, electrics, locks and drainage. Take the hassle out of home repairs with localheroes.ie. Our online service connects you with trusted tradespeople in your area, and all work comes with a 12-month guarantee, backed by Bord Gosh Energy. Get a quote in minutes at localheroes.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, Raymond Sweeney here. If your vacuum cleaner has seen better days, call into us at Ben Sweeney Euronics for a look at the new Samsung Turbo Cordless Stickback. This lightweight, easy to control vacuum cleaner picks up fine dust on carpets and on hard floors. With a 40-minute battery life and a massive 150 watts of suction power, it is now available for €299. Ben Sweeney Euronics, Port Road, Letterkenny, and the shopping centre, Dunlow.
Ben Sweeney Euronics. We deliver, we install, we care. As you start rediscovering Northern Ireland again, we want you to explore with confidence. That's why we've introduced the We're Good to Go industry standard for tourism and hospitality businesses. So you know they've agreed to follow COVID-19 safety guidelines, like social distancing, following the recommended cleaning processes, and undergoing spot checks, so you can enjoy your break to the full. Look out for the safety symbol for businesses that are good to go. Northern Ireland, we're good to go. Brought to you by Tourism Northern Ireland in partnership with UK national tourism bodies.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the Highland Radio News Desk. A Donegal deputy says it's astonishing that justice has never been served on person K, identified in the Greenwich report as having been involved in multiple murders and attempted murders in the Northwest between 1989 and 1993. The recently published report details that so-called person K is believed to have been involved in the deaths of numerous people, including the assassination of Councillor Eddie Fullerton in Buncrana. Deputy Padraig McLaughlin was speaking during statements on legacy issues on Northern Ireland in the Dáil last night. He called on the Justice Minister to examine and act on the findings of the report.
This person is closely identified with the murders of Gerard Casey, Councillor Eddie Fullerton, Thomas Donaghy, Danny Cassidy, Malachy Carey, and the massacres at Castle Rock and Greysteel. Minister, I'm appealing to you and your department officials to deeply examine this report, particularly person K, a mass murderer with a licence to kill. He must be brought to justice.
Deputy Padraig McLaughlin there. A leading Mica campaigner has voiced frustration over a lack of progress on the delivery of the enhanced Mica redress scheme announced in November. Paddy Diver claims Donegal County Council needs to refocus its efforts. On the 9 till noon show this morning, he hit out at what has become a cycle of cancelled meetings, saying instead of what's happening at the moment, the council should be concentrating on ensuring that the €5,000 emergency fund for Mica homeowners is administered as quickly and efficiently as possible.
That's what they should be getting their answers ready for instead of on house fighting. A council official went to the newspapers and said that I shouldn't be saying these things over social media. I think they should be using their energy, getting their ducks lined up in a row and getting these meetings passed on. You can't have 6 meetings cancelled. The on-house fighting is a shambles. It is a disgrace and it has to stop.
Serious concerns been raised over not fit-for-purpose facilities for students with special educational needs at a school in Inishowen. Anthony Harkin's 15-year-old son AJ attends Sculwera in Buncrana, and along with other pupils with special education needs, he's been moved to a facility off campus with COVID cited as a reason for the move. Mr Harkin told Greg Hughes this morning that the building his son has been sent to is not up to standard.
The current situation is they're off campus. They're in a building. I know it's about 400 yards away from the main school, but the building itself, it's just a house, Greg, and it's simply not fit for purpose. It's not wheelchair accessible, and there's clear damp and mold issues, and it's just not a good place for the kids to be.
In a statement to Highland Radio this morning, the school said the accommodation in question was adapted to suit the needs of the students being placed there. It's a temporary arrangement, they say, and it'll be revisited when school COVID guidelines are revised by the Department of Education and Skills. In the meantime, the schools say they have secured funding and approval for the building of a new complex with special class units. This, they say, has involved a lot of time and extra work, but the plans are approved and they hope it'll move to construction stage very quickly. Parents are facing numerous difficulties in accessing GPs, according to a leading doctor. It's after revelations that there's now just one GP for every 1,000 people. Hundreds of doctors are due to retire in the coming years. The Irish College for General Practitioners says there aren't enough supports for new GPs coming into the sector. Dr Nutmo from the IGP says they need help.
It is a vocation of a job, and genuinely it is. You know, we get into it knowing how busy it is, but it can be better. And it can be more organised. Access to services can be better. Supports can be better. For new GPs coming down the line, we need to actually support those GPs to set up and practice in a way that's not going to saddle them with massive amounts of debt for 10, 15 years to come at the start of their careers.
A Donegal senator says the terminology currently being used in child pornography legislation is harmful. Senator Eileen Flynn has moved to introduce a child trafficking and child sexual exploitation material amendment bill to address what she says is a very important language issue. She's proposed legislation use the term child sexual exploitation material as opposed to child pornography. Senator Flynn told the Seanad that the change is necessary.
The term child pornography is not only incorrect, it is dangerous. Why? You heard the term child pornography and understand what it means. Why then is it dangerous when our laws already provide measures against it? The reason is that what is happening in these awful incidents is not pornography, it is abuse.
A mix of cloud, sunny spells and patchy drizzle this morning. Cloudier this afternoon with outbreaks of rain and drizzle becoming widespread. Highest temperatures today 8 to 10 degrees Celsius in moderate west to southwest winds. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 11 o'clock. Good morning.
The obituary notices for this Wednesday morning, February the 2nd. The death has taken place of John Burns, 61 Cooney Road. Funeral leaving his home on Friday morning at 9:20 to the Sacred Heart Church Moff for Requiem Mass at 10 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. House private for family time from 9 p.m. until 1 p.m. The death has taken place in the Shetland Islands of Maureen Robertson, Nate Gamble, formerly Tulnaree, Carndonagh, County Donegal. Funeral will take place later in Unst, Shetland. The death has taken place of Sally Maxwell, née Kennedy, 7 Churchview, Strabane. Funeral leaving her home tomorrow morning at 9:25 for Requiem Mass in the Church of the Immaculate Conception, Strabane at 10 o'clock. Interment afterwards in Strabane Cemetery. The house is private to family and friends only, please. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Teresa Boyce, St Mary's Terrace, Ramelton. Remains are reposing at her home in St Mary's Terrace, Ramelton. House private to family and close friends. Requiem Mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Ramelton. Burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Rosary tonight at 9 o'clock. Funeral Mass and Rosary can be viewed on Church Services at TV. Family flowers only. The death has taken place of John Crossan, Castlegay, Kilboy, Letterkenny. Requiem Mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in St Columbus Church, Kilmacrennan. Burial afterwards in Tully Cemetery. House strictly private to immediate family only at the request of the deceased. Family flowers only, donations if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Patrick Sweeney funeral directors. Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has occurred of Billy Doherty, Carrick McGrath, Ballybuffet. Funeral leaving his late residence tomorrow morning at 10:30 for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Shesh O'Neill. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. The funeral mass will be streamed live via the parish webcam. The house and funeral will be private to family, neighbours and close friends only, please. And the death has taken place of Charlie Ward, 6 Sandringham Drive, Prehen Park, Derry. Funeral from his home this afternoon at 1:10 for 2 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church at Donamana, County Tyrone. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers if wished to NI, chest, heart and stroke. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
And you're very welcome back to the programme. Now, some of your comments here. A caller says the classrooms at Skulmora that were used for special needs students have been turned into a library and an RE room. Now, I'm not sure what that has to do with COVID, which was talked about in the press release we got. But we've put a further inquiry in to find out if that is the case, because I didn't see anything in the COVID guidelines that called for rooms to be turned into a library or an RE room. So we're trying to get some clarity on that. And if you're the listener that sent that in, by the way, I'm not doubting you for a second, but just it is unbelievable. I'm a teacher in the school, says this listener, and we've been speaking to them and are satisfied that they are. I have to agree with everything Anthony has said. There were 2 units that were not moved. They did move in the beginning, but they have been returned. The gardens are not suitable because we've requested that the grass be cut. They weren't cut from September until April. The children couldn't use it all of that time. Another, my son attends the school as well. He is also a wheelchair user. His first year at school was fantastic, but now he's lost out on so much. The social aspect for my son is more important than the academic elements. Another, I'd love to know how many more children they've told they hold in the lake house, because my child is starting in September. Okay, so you're wondering, will your child starting in September be in the main building of the school or in the lake house, which I think is a legitimate concern and question. A caller says, right, we'll come back to that because it's a separate issue. You are tuned to the 9 till noon show. Lots coming up in the programme. As I say, Business Matters. We'll be getting some business news from across the region and previewing that podcast. Senator Eileen Flynn will be joining us to talk more about her new bill, which has been a long time coming, which hopefully will remove the phrase child pornography from legislation, because it's a disgusting terminology and glosses over the most horrendous of crimes against children. So I genuinely hope that she's successful in that, and that happens sooner rather than later. There's that and so much more besides, so don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss it.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
It's time for Ncbi Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Wednesday, the 2nd of February. You're playing on the blue sheet. The reference number is S3. It's game number 5. The numbers are 85, 45, 73, 39, 40, 33, 24, 60, 47, and finally 56. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Which is why this collaboration...
Oh, hello?
Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, you're breaking up there.
Am I... Hear me?
No, you're gone, I can't...
Connection troubles? If you run a business, you need reliable broadband to help you grow, not hold you back. Vodafone Business Broadband, with always connected technology, business level care, and walkout working installation guarantee, ensures your business stays connected. Drop into your local Vodafone store today and ask your business advisor. Vodafone. Together we can. For full terms, visit vodafone.ie/terms/business.
Wet n Wild is a local family business fully stocked to keep you safe and warm in, on or even under the water. With Zone 3 swim wetsuits, dry robes, life jackets, kayaks, subboards, swimwear, scuba and snorkeling equipment. With friendly, experienced staff to assist. Kit yourself out now while stocks last at Wet n Wild.
Hello, Grace. Where are you heading?
Down to Made to Measure Fireplaces in Creasla.
Made to Measure Fireplaces? Didn't you just buy a fireplace there?
Yeah, but I'm going now to pick my kitchen worktop.
Create the kitchen and living room of your dreams at Made to Measure Fireplaces and Granite Worktops. They've been in business for over 40 years. So for help choosing granite or quartz for your worktop, fireplace or stove, visit the Made to Measure showroom at Cashel Creasla or see mtmfireplaces.com or on Facebook.
Hello, I'm David Foley, medical herbalist. Are you suffering with a cold, flu or sinusitis? Then ask for Irish Botanica echinacea, a traditional herbal remedy. Irish Botanica echinacea is your natural solution to relieve the symptoms of the common cold, flu and sinusitis. Call into the Natural Way, Letterkenny Shopping Centre for more information.
Okay, we're joined in studio now by Éineann McDermott, who's Education and Communication Officer with the Students' Union at LYIT, soon to have a new name. from the 1st of April, I think. Hey, Ainon, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Greg.
It's good to have you in with us. Right, okay, so from the 14th of February, Shag Week and Rag Week, or is it Shag Week, which includes all of it, begin in Letterkenny, is that it?
Well, originally it was supposed to be just Shag Week, but given the whole situation of exams, we had to push out Rag Week. I just want to thank you for giving a bit of shedding light on the whole exam situation, which has pushed forward Rag Week. Just when you let on the students speak on about exams, that gave us a bit of leverage when going into negotiations with senior management to reschedule exams that would cater more to students.
And are students satisfied with that now? Not get caught back up in that subject again, but
yeah, listen, we can all agree it's not the best option in the world, but for final year students, you wouldn't want to be sitting an exam in May, and then obviously sitting the exams during the January when you thought they're supposed to be off and people make commitments going abroad, work, whatever. I think this here is the best possible compromise. Listen, I'm not happy with it, and not all students are happy with it, but I think they understand.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's as but much as we can hope for, isn't it? Right, Shag Week. So people listen to Shag Week, right? Maybe they haven't been in college for a while, maybe they never went, and they think what this effectively is that a week. And apologies to any sensitive ears, by the way. We'll be talking about this for about 15 minutes. They think really, they would say, well, this is a week where everyone just shags.
Well, there's a bit of misinterpretation about this. Shag Week is a campaign run by USI and HSE since 2014. USI is the Union of Students of Ireland. They're an overarching student union for the entirety of Ireland. So Shag Week stands for Sexual Health Awareness and Guidance Week. It talks about things like contraception, unplanned pregnancies, sexual empowerment, consent, for our Shag Week, we'll be having a sexpert called Caroline West. She'll be speaking about having good sex, and we'll be having Steve Bennett. He's a comedian from down the country. He'll be doing a sex toy bingo. Just to break the taboos, and this here is something we're doing to raise awareness about sexual violence and gender-based violence and anything to do with sexual health.
And I think you could pretend that no one's having sex and they're waiting to get married if they choose to get married. And you know what I mean? People might say, well, that's the way it should be, or that's the one. But what's happening is students are out and about, they're meeting up with each other, they're having sex. It's a bit different now. Maybe it's different now than it was, because, maybe there's less airs and graces. People just meet up, and if that's what they decide to do. So it's happening. This is about making sure, as best as possible, that it's 100% consensual and as safe as possible. Whether people like to think that young people are doing this, and it's to ensure that they are doing it. No, it's not to ensure they are doing it. They are doing it. It's to ensure they're doing it as safely and with absolute consent.
Yeah, and I think that's important that we are able to have an open conversation about sexual health, and that especially with the stigmas around STIs. I'd just like to say that the college, if you're an Irish student, there's a completely free sexual health and screening clinic offered by ourselves throughout the entirety of the year, and there shouldn't be any stigma around having sex or getting an STI. These things happen.
And I think really it's always important. But sorry to get back to the issue of consent, but that really is a very important message, which I presume forms part of the talks and the information that's out there.
Oh yeah, it'd be a huge part of it. For us, Caroline West, we're trying to raise issues, trying to address issues around consent by having a speaker. And Caroline, again, she does talks about sexual violence and gender-based violence also, so she'll be raised a bit of awareness about that.
Okay. And is this a series of events in different places around the town, or the shag element of this, is this on campus, or what way does that work?
Listen, there's events on campus, so obviously we'll be out in the corridors giving out these wee books here that there's a wee love letter. So inside of that there's a wee leaflet just about consent, and there's a wee Johnny in there too, Greg.
Okay.
What else? So Steve Bennett, he'll be up in the Orchard doing a comedy gig. And then obviously we have the sexual health and screening clinic within the college, and then in Sister Sarah's we'll be having a traffic light night, so that there's just where students get out and talking to each other.
And I mean the card is pretty simple, but it hits on the main points. Consent is sexy. STIs, talks about that, as you mentioned. That's interesting that there is free screening available on campus. Advice about when to get tested, and then talking about how you, as best as you can, prevent yourself, from catching anything. So what's planned for the Rag Week element of it? Is it good crack? A lot of people missed out. Was there anything last year, or I don't know?
Obviously, we couldn't do much. There wasn't much that could be done last year.
Nothing you could admit in the radio, anyway.
No, it was quite enough affair, Greg. I can assure you. For the Rag Week this year, obviously now with the opening of 12 pubs, with the opening of the country again, we are allowed to have more events. So nightlife will see a return. There will be a 12 pubs event on the Wednesday. So there will be the 16th, and then the day after then, the college gets a day off for Rag Week. So there will be a Rag Day, and obviously we'll be running all our charity events also to raise money for our selected charities.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Listen, Ainan, thanks very much for joining us. Is Ainan or Ainan? Ainan. You should have corrected me at the beginning. My apologies. No, it's your name. It's important. I'm sure your parents thought long and hard about it, so you didn't want me to get it right. What's the mood down at LYIT at the moment in terms of it's the Atlantic... what is it? The Atlantic
Technological University.
Yeah, Atlantic ATU.
Yeah, ATU. Yeah.
That was officially signed off on yesterday morning, and I think it comes into effect from April. Are you thinking much about that? Is it exciting times?
Oh, well, listen, the students are delighted that they're going to be coming out of college with a piece of paper that says they graduated from a university.
Yeah, it's significant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they were doing as much work as everyone else. So.
And also it means it will give us more leverage for better infrastructure in the county in terms of accommodation and transport.
Because that is a big issue, especially as we try and accommodate, deferred students, new students, and what have you. There's no point creating loads of new. There's no point creating loads of new. Well, there is a point in creating loads of new courses and positions in the courses, but if people have nowhere to stay, it creates another problem.
And there's a big thing for us, because obviously every year we promote we have loads of places available. That's course places, but in terms of places actually available to stay, that's the different story. I think the last person that we moved out of hotel was back there in November, so there's a few months into the college year, and they're only moving into a hotel then.
Yeah, but with having university, more people might choose to study closer to home as well. So I don't know, they'll have to come up with something. Ainan, thank you very much for joining us. What does Ainan mean, by the way?
Bird-like.
Bird-like, okay, very good. All right, lovely name, by the way. Ainan, thanks very much for joining us, and stay safe and have fun.
Oh, yeah. Will do.
Okay, you are, to our listeners, Education and Communications Officer with the Students' Union at LYIT. Okay, we'll be back with more in a couple of minutes.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
Need a new part for your Ford car or van? Why not call to OMS Auto Parts in Buncrana? With a massive stock of Ford parts, you're sure to get the part you need. Free next day delivery on orders over €50. Call 074 9361924 or shop online at omsautoparts.ie.
At Smith's Daleside, our Munchie range of highly palatable calf feed enhances rumen development and maximises performance. Our heifer range is the excellent choice for all breeder stock. Call Smith's Daleside on 074 9171 300.
There are silent conversations that happen on our roads every day between drivers and older pedestrians like me. When we catch each other's eye to say, "Do you see me?" or "I'm crossing." But when people don't look out for each other, those connections can be missed. And so can I.
Too many older pedestrians are being killed on our roads. When we look out for each other,
we keep each other safe.
Please look out for older pedestrians. From the Road Safety Authority, visit rsa.ie.
As you start rediscovering Northern Ireland again, we want you to explore with confidence. That's why we've introduced the We're Good to Go industry standard for tourism and hospitality businesses. So you know they've agreed to follow COVID-19 safety guidelines, like social distancing, following the recommended cleaning processes and undergoing spot checks, so you can enjoy your break to the full. Look out for the safety symbol for businesses that are good to go. Northern Ireland, we're good to go. Brought to you by Tourism Northern Ireland in partnership with UK national tourism bodies.
Highland Radio Time Checks, brought to you by Letterkenny Shopping Centre, the centre of shopping in Donegal. Free parking and shopping all under one roof. Letterkenny Shopping Centre, bringing you the time at...
The time's 23 minutes past 10. Now, we were talking yesterday and this morning about debt collectors being employed by the HSE to chase up cancer patients for money that may be owed. This caller says, Greg, it's a disgrace that the HSE is doing this. I know a woman who had to sell her €5,000 settee for €500 to pay off the HSE because she borrowed from a loan shark to pay them off. Their people were knocking her door constantly. She took this loan to pay the HSE because she was afraid if the HSE weren't paid, it would affect her child's treatment. The loan sharks and the HSE's agency didn't care that her child had cancer. It all comes back to need for cancer patients to be given a medical card without being means tested. Can you imagine dealing with everything else and having to sell off your €5,000 settee for 10% of its worth to pay off loan and to pay off debt collectors employed by the health service executive? I mean, it's icky, isn't it? Any word on the Brandon report re Stranola abuse? Will the CAMS care review get swept aside in a similar manner? Amazing how much the Irish people put up with. A change is needed badly. We do see the political landscape changing, but those who held power for a century are doing the utmost to still hang on irrespectively. Just noticed that Donegal Waste are charging €5 per month for operating the account. This is on top of the bin charge of €12 for it being emptied. I suppose, is it a standing charge to service the account? Maybe. Not everyone's putting a bin out now. I don't know what the motivation for it is, but it is happening because we checked. As a resident of Strabane, I just wonder what people think of the new look for the PSNI shirt and tie has been replaced with a T-shirt. I like that it makes the men and women look the same, but do we really want to be down-dressing our authorities? Some communities have little enough respect for them without adding to it. I don't know. I didn't know this was happening. Is it though they appear hip and trendy, or is there more practical reasons? I would imagine that if you are involved in the police force, wherever you are, wearing a tie, especially during the course of an arrest or something, would not be very advisable. But anyway, apparently they've done away with the shirt and tie and now they wear a T-shirt. Do you care one way or other? If you do, let us know. 086 60 25,000. And last one before I take a piece of music. This is from another listener and it says it relates to the situation at Scoilmurra. And it reads, I have a daughter with Down syndrome. She attends Scoilmurra in Buncrana. She's in the special needs unit in the Lake House. We want our children moved back to Scoilmurra main building as they are being segregated from mainstream. The building at Lake House is too small and overcrowded and mouldy. My child is regressing because she has to wear ear defenders when going main building because she's not used to the noise. This never ever happened in primary. Also, I can't get speech therapy into Lake House as there's no room. I was told the children would only be in Lake House for a few months. This is not fair as we as parents are our children's voice. We're going to fight this regards. That's coming in from a sad parent. It's the space that these children used to accommodate in the school now, a library, and an RE room. I don't know. We're trying to find out if that is the case. That's what some people are telling us. And as I say, I don't know how that fits into the blaming of COVID for these decisions.
The 9 till Noon Show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
At Electric Ireland, electric vehicle drivers can enjoy up to 7,500 kilometres of free at-home electric vehicle charging with 100% green electricity. That's up to 7,500 kilometres of possibilities. From seeing friends and family to taking road trips and making memories. Visit electricireland.ie/greenev to switch today. Electric Ireland. We're brighter together. Estimated annual bill €1,225. New customers on 1-year residential green electricity plan. Discounted unit rate, standing charge and PSO levy. See electricireland.ie/greenev for terms and conditions.
For great fuel deals, contact Gortley Sales and Hire. Large sacks and trailer loads of logs. Also briquettes, coal, kindling and gas with free delivery locally. Contact Gortley Sales and Hire in Letterkenny on 9126276.
Louis Walsh Opticians, the longest established opticians in Letterkenny, have now reopened for business and are welcoming new and existing customers alike, offering the latest brands with glasses to suit all budgets and styles, private, medical card and PRSI patients. For your next eye test, contact Louis Walsh Opticians in the heart of Letterkenny at Mount Southwell Place on 91 21000.
Hello, Grace. Where are you heading?
Down to Made to Measure Fireplaces in Creasla.
Made to Measure Fireplaces? Didn't you just buy a fireplace there?
Yeah, but I'm going now to pick my kitchen worktop.
Create the kitchen and living room of your dreams at Made to Measure Fireplaces and Granite Worktops. They've been in business for over 40 years, so for help choosing granite or quartz for your worktop, fireplace or stove, visit the Made to Measure showroom at Cashel Creasla or see mtmfireplaces.com or on Facebook.
Donegal Hearing Clinic, now open at Pierce Road, Letterkenny and Buncrana, now offering state-of-the-art rechargeable hearing aids free with your PRSI. Also pain-free microsuction wax removal services. Call 07491 88470 or donegalhearingclinic.ie. Life sounds brilliant with Donegal Hearing Clinic.
All right, still to come on the programme, we're going to be speaking to a guidance counsellor as it relates to the implications of yesterday's announcement. So if you're a student or the parent or guardian of a student, you'll be interested in that. That's coming up after 11. Senator Eileen Flynn will be joining us after 11 as well, as will Kieran O'Donnell, where we talk about getting you the very latest business news from across the region. We're going to be getting response from the Gardai to that case in Glenties and the calls for better resources for An Garda Síochána. That's all coming up. We'll also be speaking to a listener of her experience, and I don't think it was a terribly pleasant one, if I'm not mistaken, at Letterkenny University Hospital. That and so much more besides. So stay tuned with us until noon here. I want to wish Kyle McLean from Milltown Convoy a happy 5th birthday. Have a great day from Claire, Liam, Abby, Casey, Holly and your buddy Andrew. It could be Kike, Kyke, so it's either Kike or Kyle. Maybe you could send that back into us again so we get the request absolutely spot on. All right, here's an oldie but a goodie from Shakespeare's Sister. All right, that is Shakespeare's Sister from the 90s, I believe. Some other DJ could probably tell you what year and who produced it, what have you, but unfortunately I can't. I believe it was the 90s, and that's about the height of it. Hey, come here, nearly fell off my chair last night. Congratulations to Air. Of course, Air feature relatively regularly on this programme. Well, congratulations to Air, because they have won the Excellence in Customer Services Management Award for 2021. What an achievement for the company. They were awarded this fantastic credit by the Public Sector Ireland 2021 Excellence in Business Awards, underlining Air's commitment to connecting, investing in Ireland. So congratulations to Air for winning that Excellence in Customer Services Award from Public Sector Ireland. I don't know much about Public Sector magazine. I know it's got 37 followers on Twitter, so I'm not sure if it's maybe it's a big hidden secret. But anyway, well done to Air. And hopefully now I'm going to be shortlisted for the Hairstyle of the Year Awards for 2022. Hopefully that's... hey, anything can happen. It might happen yet. Who's to say? Right, now, Tomas on Facebook says, the teachers and SNAs in Sculmore Buncrana are fantastic. The Department of Education has responsibility to look after our vulnerable children, to safeguard them through safe buildings like we as parents do at home. Progression, not regression. Okay, thank you, Tomas, for your comment there. And the rest of you commenting on Facebook, Annie, Marie, and Charles and others commenting. It's good to have you on board watching the show. Right, okay, Deirdre Grant joins us on the programme now, and we welcome her. Good morning, Deirdre.
Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Greg.
Okay, right, take us back to last April, your experience of Letterkenny University Hospital.
So last April I went in for elective surgery, so it was planned, and I was quite happy to be going in for it. And I was scheduled to be in for 2 to 3 nights maximum. And I went in, went through my operation, and woke up in high dependency, and everything was in order. And on the 14th of April, I was allowed home. And I've got to say that those first 24 or 48 hours, there was absolutely nothing wrong. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't have said one bad word about the hospital either, to be honest with you. I wasn't home very long. I felt tired and I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I had quite a sharp pain in my back, on my back. And it went on for a while, and eventually, as the evening was drawn in, I phoned Now Doc, and they said, look, you've had an operation 48 hours ago or thereabouts. You need to go to A&E. And that's where my drama started.
All right, so you landed in the ED.
I did.
What was the story?
Well, the first thing was that most people in there were not wearing masks, which kind of freaked me out, considering that I was sitting with stitches, having been operated on the Monday, and this was Wednesday. Some people were sitting playing with them around their fingers. But anyway, I was eventually...
And this was last April at the height of concerns and what have you as well.
It was.
Okay, so...
I was taken in, and I was eventually seen by a doctor. He took me for an X-ray, or sent me for an X-ray, and I was sent home with a prescription for 10 paracetamol and a muscle rub. And I said to him, I'm kind of asthmatic and this doesn't feel like a muscle problem. I knew it wasn't a muscle problem. But anyway, that was his diagnosis, and I was sent home again. All
right, but I mean, obviously, from what you were telling Now Doc, they thought that this was beyond paracetamol and a back rub. They wouldn't have sent you to the ED in the first place. Before we talk, what else? Did you spot anything else in ED, people's experience? Because you were probably there for a few hours. I think we've all done... I've done 2 9-hour shifts in there myself. What did you see around you?
Well, no, on that first night that I was in, really and truly, I was in such discomfort that I noticed very little around me that evening.
Okay.
And I was in for about 2 hours and I was sent home.
Right.
The following morning, the pain had got worse and I hadn't slept all night. I eventually phoned my own GP, and she said, in view of what's happening here, I think you should phone the hospital and ask to speak to one of the team. And I phoned the hospital, And I spoke to the registrar, who immediately said, "You must come in, Deirdre. We will take care of you. I will have a bed organised." He said, "Unfortunately, you've got to come in through A&E again. That's the only way into the hospital. But it will all be ready for you, and we will sort it out." And I have got to say, and I have repeatedly said this, I could not say one bad word about the surgeon or his team. I thought they were fantastic all the way through. So anyway, I had to wait for my husband to finish work, and I was taken in then to A&E again, or ED, and I arrived at about 7:15 in the evening and went through the usual procedures again and again. The people were there with no masks on. I was taken in on a trolley, and eventually at about 8:30, the surgeon who had operated on me knew that I was coming in and came into the cubicle I was in and instructed the doctor, and he gave him 4 instructions. And he left. I never saw that doctor again. And I lay there, well, I actually lay there from 7 o'clock in the evening till 6 o'clock the next morning. And boy, what did I see during that hour. First of all, it wasn't busy. There was, for example, a cup of coffee was spilled out in front of the cubicle along where the doctors or nurses were working.
So are you behind the door, sort of where the X-ray department is, or actually in the waiting area of ED?
I was in a cubicle in the waiting area where they treat you in these cubicles.
Okay.
And the curtain was open, and the coffee was spilt, and people literally walked over that for hours before eventually a young girl came along and wiped up what was left of it. I was trying, as the hours went on and the pain increased and I was lying there. I remember at one stage saying to a young nurse that came in to look at me, I said, "Are we waiting on somebody?" This is in the wee hours of the morning. "Are we waiting on somebody to die?" And she said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, you don't send people home in the middle of the night. So unless we're waiting for somebody to die, surely there's no bed for me tonight here." And now she thought I was being facetious, which I probably was at that stage. And she said, "If we have no bed, we'll send you somewhere else." And I said, "Well, no, you won't, because my doctor and my surgeon and his team are here. So I will be, this is where I'll be treated." At about 2 o'clock in the morning, I said to her, when the surgeon came in, he asked that I have a lung X-ray done. And she said, no. And I said, he did. I said, not only that, he asked for 3 different things apart from that to be done, and nothing has been done. And I was ignored. And then about half an hour later, she came in. "Oh, yeah, you were supposed to have an X-ray." This was, say, maybe 3 in the morning, and I was sent down for the X-ray then. They were supposed to check my urine, and on the way back from the loo, I said, "I think somebody was supposed to do a urine check." She goes, "Too late now." So that was the sort of attitude that was there. Now, there was an old lady lying in a cubicle across from me, and she'd been there when I went in, and I literally never saw anybody look at her, and she was still there when I was eventually taken out of there.
Was she on her own? Or
she was on her own. Well, of course, she was on her own. Nobody else is allowed in.
Did she seem in discomfort, or?
She never moved. Literally never moved. And at one stage I thought, I wonder, God forgive me, is she alive? Because nobody had gone near her for hours, or so it seemed. I mean, I was trying to figure out if there was a manager in the place. And at one stage...
At this point, Deirdre, before we talk about that, so what was everyone so busy that they couldn't say to you and say to this other lady? Do you know what I mean? Like, did you get the impression that they're...
Absolutely not.
So in your opinion, and it is an opinion, was it just lack of organisation then? Is that what you're...
Absolute and complete lack of organisation.
Is it possible that lady that you were speaking to, as soon as she went behind the double doors, was absolutely run off her feet, working another area of the hospital, and was able to just dip in to see how you were?
God only knows.
Okay.
I don't know.
But it's possible.
But I know it wasn't busy. It is possible. I mean, one of the things that happened was, because everything was wide open and it wasn't busy, there was one lady that I thought might be a manager, and she was looking for a doctor to come down to A&E. And it was apparent that the doctor was busy and was saying, "I can't come down now." and she tore stripes of him. Are you refusing? And I could hear the other conversation. I'm not refusing. I'm saying I can't do it. Well, when she came off the phone and she called him Pally Alley. Now, I haven't a clue who Pally Alley is, but all she kept saying was, Pally Alley's no more Pally around here. We'll sort him out. She spent the next hour telling everybody that came past her story about how he hadn't been able to come down and she had put him in his place. And I heard that story at least 20 times. Right. And all I was thinking was, have you nothing more important to be doing than talking about this? Because I knew that I was lying there in gross discomfort and nothing was happening for me. And it didn't seem, as I say, there was no big rush of people coming in and out, no big turnover of people. What really, really got to me was, eventually at 6 o'clock in the morning, I was taken up to Medical 2. And later in the day, I said to the nurse, you know, was there no bed for me, or was this bed here? She says, we would have much preferred to got you last night. She said, we hate when people come in when we're finishing a shift. I've no idea why they didn't bring you up, because the bed was empty since 4 o'clock.
And how was your condition progressed at that point?
At that stage, I was feeling worse than I'd felt when I went in. And at some stage in the evening, and at this stage I think I became delirious because I got very sick, they put me back in high dependency, and I was told then I had a blocked bowel and I had hospital-acquired pneumonia. Mm-hmm. And I had lay there from 7 the evening before till 6 the next morning on a trolley when that bed in Medical 2 had been available from 4 o'clock.
Plus, of course, the lung X-ray presumably would have picked that up. If it had been done sooner, it would have been picked up sooner as well.
Wouldn't you think? Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So then your experience in the ward, what did you come across there?
For the most part, and I will say this, the nurses were fantastic. Now, I do think there's a sense of you have a job to do and you don't do something that isn't your job. So if something falls on the floor, you wait until somebody whose job it is to pick it up comes and picks it up. But for the most part, the nurses were fantastic. Now, I did come across one nurse who felt that I shouldn't be there. God bless her. She actually transferred me out of the ward at one stage. And when the surgeon discovered that I'd been moved out of high dependency, he came into the ward and went ballistic and said, "You're a very sick woman and I cannot give you proper care in here. You have to go back to high dependency." And I said to him, "But that nurse didn't want me in high dependency. She wanted me out." And he said, "I don't care. It's my decision and I'm putting you back in there." And I was put back into high dependency again, where I spent, I think it was 9 more days. I spent 7 more days in total in there. Silly things like, the physiotherapist who came in to get me mobile and had to put me onto a mobile oxygen unit because I was on oxygen, dropped the little nozzle that goes into your nose on the floor. And it lay there until he was ready, and he picked it up and put it back in my nose again. Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't do that to a baby soother or something. Exactly. And in terms of what you witnessed too, there was another lady in the same ward as you. That was quite a concern for you. Absolutely. Now, she came in the last 2 days that I was there, and no disrespect to the woman, probably a lovely woman. She seemed to know an awful lot of people. And members of staff who were not in nurses' uniforms, who were clearly in workmen's clothes, came in. Some of them stood at the door with no mask on and talked into her. Some of them came in and stood at the foot of her bed and talked to her. And there was a total of 4 beds in this ward. So there wasn't, do you know what I'm saying? There wasn't a whole pile of people in there. And those people came in unmasked and stood and had full conversations. And all I could think was, I hope you don't have COVID or was near anybody who had COVID, because you're standing there now. And this happened several times that day. Mm. There was 2 bed managers that came in a few times, and they would wander around and very pleasant, spoke to the nurses at length, casually, and then would, "How are you doing? Hello, how are you doing?" and walk out again. But nobody was ever asked, "Is everything okay? Mm-hmm. How are you feeling?" Just in relation to the mask wearing, there are protocols in place. It is a controlled environment. So, we don't know the ins and outs of that. Everyone is tested, presumably, so maybe that is where there's a bit of latitude there, but I take your point. Now, this lady, you estimate to be late 80s or early 90s.
This was on the last 2 days.
Yeah, tell us briefly about that. Not briefly, but we are heading towards 11, so I want to get the story out, Deirdre.
Yes, I was eventually put into a 2-bedded ward with a lady who was 90. And the poor woman had a severe infection, and she was, in fact, she was quite lucid at times. On the second morning, they told her they were going to take her out and put her into a chair so she could look out the window. And they did, in fairness, bring in a big, soft, comfortable chair and put her into it, and she was able to look out the window. And that was before midday. At 6 o'clock in the evening, when somebody came in, I said to them, will you please put that woman into her bed? Because every time you go out, she's lying half asleep, moaning, very uncomfortable by the sounds of it, and she needs to be moved. And they said, well, we need to respect her wishes. Now, what they would do, they'd go over to her and say, do you want to be put into your bed? And then she would say, Maggie would say, what time is it? Well, it's 6 o'clock. But sure, nobody goes to bed at 6 o'clock. So she lay there. At 8 o'clock or 8:30, I was so infuriated because I was very aware. There was only myself and this woman in the ward that she was really uncomfortable. And I said to her, whoever came in, if you don't put that woman into her bed, I'll get out and try to do it myself. And they eventually came in and got a hoist, got her into the bed, and merciful God, the stench that rose. And all I could hear was, oh, holy God, she's raw red, go and get whatever. That woman had been lying in her own filth, I'd say, for hours, because she had moaned and groaned for hours. And what they did then was, because I could see it, the curtain was drawn, obviously, while they were doing this work, but it only came to the bottom of her bed. They took that dirty nappy, threw it into a bag, and put it in the bin at the bottom of the door between our two beds. And I said to the girl, you're not honestly going to leave that there? And she said, it's not my job to move it. The other thing they did was the lady had a catheter on, and they would check the urine out of the catheter. And they had this thing that's, it's almost like what you put eggs into, that quality. And they would empty the catheter into it, test the urine, throw it down the loo, and then throw this thing back up on the cistern again. There was rings upon rings of urine marks on it. How could their testing be positive or proper when it had to be contaminated for days on end?
Now, you were so upset and moved by the experience of this other lady that you wrote a letter of complaint.
I wrote a letter of complaint about all that went on, to be honest with you.
And what response did you get?
First of all, I got an acknowledgement from the hospital that they'd received it and that they would look into the matter. I also copied it to HICWA, Charlie McConnell-Logue, Pierce Doherty, and the Minister for Health. And I got an email from the Minister from Health's office saying that because of COVID, they hadn't time. They would look at it later. That was 8 months ago. I got no response at that time from either of the two politicians. And in maybe June time, I wrote again and said, surprised, I know you're busy. Surprised I got no comment. Charlie McConnell-Logue's secretary did phone me and speak to me at length. And I've not heard anything more. And I got absolutely no acknowledgement whatsoever from Pierce Doherty's office. So for a man who seems to care so much about the community and the people, I got no response. Then eventually, and this was pure principle at this stage, in maybe October, I sent an email back to the hospital and said, I'm surprised that after all this time I've had no response. And by the way, you might send me my medical records.
This is 6 to 8 months after.
Oh, God, of course, yes.
Right, okay.
Back, I think just before Christmas, I got a letter from the hospital with the biggest load of waffle that I've ever read in my life. And excuses, can't remember. How would they remember 8 months on? Terribly sorry, we're sorry about this and we're sorry about that, and nobody can remember, and that was it. And I asked for my medical records.
Just in relation to that letter,
Yes.
Was that the hospital effectively, from their perspective, drawing a line under it? In other words, it was one specific time 8 months ago. We're sorry it happened, but we can't really pursue it. But thanks for your complaint. From their perspective, that was their response, and that was that matter dealt with.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
So your medical records then arrived.
My medical records had actually arrived before that, and in the middle, and I was particularly interested to see what they had in for the 14th of April, the night that I'd first gone back into A&E when I was sent home with the famous prescription for 10 paracetamol and a muscle rub, and it was missing. It's not there. And in its place, I have a medical record for somebody that isn't me. A gentleman, his name, his date of birth, and I'm not going to give his name out over the radio because I think that would be grossly unfair. His name, his date of birth, and his hospital number, and his very personal details, and I mean very personal details.
You want to get them back to that person, I'm sure, but the hospital want them back as well.
Oh, here, I sent an email to the hospital and saying, look, got your response, biggest load of waffle, just want you to know it means nothing to me. And by the way, when you sent me my medical records, you also sent me a medical record for Mr. A. And I immediately, within 48 hours, got a registered letter back from the hospital within 48 hours saying, oh, those are very important records and we would like them sent back immediately because of, regulations, and we are eager to give them back to the patient. And I thought, yeah, right you are. And they would even come and collect them from me if I wanted.
Did you give them back?
In reality, I did not. Absolutely not.
And we were worried about that. I'm going to be honest, Deirdre, because if that gentleman happens to have to visit that hospital...
it was all photocopies. Right, I didn't get the originals. It was photocopies.
Okay, so if he had to visit that hospital, they would have his medical records available?
Well, you would hope so.
Okay.
But I mean, the day that I looked for in question, the 14th of April, my medical record isn't there. Yeah. And this man was also in there on the 14th of April in A&E.
You want to get them back to him, we'll figure that out. But the point being is they were very quick to respond and to chase you down. Registered letters would even call round to the house to try and get these medical records back. But in terms of dealing with your complaint and your concerns, it was 8 odd months afterwards, and it was a wishy-washy response that you got.
Why do you think I haven't jumped to send them anything back?
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing back from the HICWA?
Nothing back from HICWA.
Minister for Health?
No, HICWA did say that they do not deal with individual cases. Nothing back from the Minister for Health. And more alarmingly, because at the end of the day, it's your taxes and my taxes that pay to run that hospital. Not a word from either of the two politicians.
Well, yeah, you did have a conversation with a rep from Charlie McConnell, but you're saying you've got nothing back from Pierce Doherty or his office. Okay.
No.
Right, just in 30 seconds, does this make you worry about going back into the hospital? Do you feel it was a one-off experience that maybe with everything that's going on with the pandemic, you just didn't get the service you'd normally get?
Absolutely not. I think that the hospital management is not fit for purpose. I make no apology for saying it. I don't think the problem is on the medical side. I've said it so many times. The team were phenomenal. 99% of the nurses were excellent. I think it must be soul-destroying for them up there to be in a situation where management is diabolical, and it should be run like a business, and it's not.
All right, Deirdre, listen, we obviously have made inquiries. We'll see what response we get back. Thanks for sharing the story. I hope you're well now.
I'm doing great.
Good,
Thanks a million.
Right, Deirdre, listen, thank you for that.
bless.
Okay, that's Deirdre Grant and her experience.
The 9 till Noon Show, brought to you by Bluebird Care, providing nurse-led home care services in Donegal. Call Bluebird Care 91 29562.
Nutrius Milk Replacer range, which includes NutriStart and NutriStart Plus, offers the best start to your calves this spring season. With 23% and 25% crude proteins, ideal for calf to beef and heifer rearing systems. Give your calves the best possible start. Available at your local Homeland store. Visit nutrius.ie for full nutritional information.
If your child is aged 5 to 11, you can now register for their free COVID-19 vaccine. COVID-19 usually causes mild to moderate illness in this age group, but it can cause more severe illness. All vaccines used in Ireland are tested before they're approved by the European Medicines Agency. To find out more or to register, go to hsc.ie or call HSE Live on 1800 700 700 from the HSE.
As life starts to get back to a new normal, it's time that we look after what is precious to us. Are you struggling with your hearing? Your hearing is an essential part of everyday living. Hearing is our social sense and connects you to friends and family. At Connect Hearing, we're here for you, with our clinics at Courtyard Shopping Centre, Letterkenny, and Joyce's Chiropody Clinic in Dunlow. Our centres are open Monday to Friday, where you can avail of our hearing tests, wax removal and repair services. Connect Hearing, connecting you to life. Kelly's award-winning diner is now open. Lunch specials from €6.50. Steak special Saturdays €11.95. The famous early bird brekkie only €5. And finally, Jake's world-famous burgers starting from only €9.95 served with fries. Kelly's Diner, back for good.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Ronaldo, De Bruyne, Cavani. You can now see both Manchester teams in action with Ryanair's twice weekly service to Manchester. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
All right, a mix of cloudy, sunny spells and patchy drizzle in places. Cloudier in the afternoon, outbreaks of rain and drizzle becoming widespread. Temperatures of 8 to 10 degrees. Okay, loads to come in the last hour of the show. Stay right where you are. You won't want to miss it. It's an interesting one. But it is 11 o'clock, so that means it's time for a news update. And we cross over now to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. A Donegal deputy says it's astonishing that justice has never been served on Person K, identified in the Greenwich report as having been involved in multiple murders and attempted murders in the Northwest between 1989 and 1993. The recently published report details that so-called Person K is believed to have been involved in the deaths of numerous people, including the assassination of Councillor Eddie Fullerton. Serious concerns have been raised over not fit-for-purpose facilities for students with special educational needs at a school in Inishowen. Anthony Harkin's 15-year-old son AJ attends school Buncrana and, along with other pupils with special educational needs, has been moved to a building off campus with COVID cited as a reason for the move. It's claimed the property is not wheelchair accessible with damp and mould issues. In a statement, School says the use of the off-campus units was a temporary measure and will be revisited when school COVID guidelines are revised. A leading mica campaigner has voiced his frustration over lack of progress in the delivery of the enhanced mica redress scheme announced back in November. Paddy Diver claims Donegal County Council needs to refocus its efforts. The Social Protection Minister has said she'll consider a committee report which recommends against increasing the state pension age. An Oireachtas committee has said it rejects the Pensions Commission recommendation that the retirement age increase beyond 66. A Donegal senator says the terminology currently being used in child pornography legislation is harmful. Senator Eileen Flynn has moved to introduce a child trafficking and child sexual exploitation material amendment bill to address what she says is a very important language issue. And patients are facing numerous difficulties in accessing GPs, according to a leading doctor. It's after recent revelations that there is now around one GP for every 1,000 people. Hundreds of doctors are due to retire in the coming years, with the Irish College for General Practitioners saying there aren't enough supports for new GPs coming into the sector. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
OK, Michaela, thank you very much indeed. We're going to be speaking to Garda Sergeant Paul Wallace. He's the National Executive Member for Connacht Ulster of the Association of Garda Sergeants and Inspectors. I suppose really teasing out what lessons need to be learned, what action needs to be taken off the back of that case in Glenties, in which the person found responsible was sentenced yesterday. That's on its way, including Senator Eileen Flynn talking about her wishes to have the term child pornography removed from legislation. And Kieran O'Donnell will be joining us very shortly too, giving us a roundup of the business news from across the Northwest.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
There are many reasons people switch to Clear Mobile.
Serious deal. Simple as.
Customer service is A1.
Great coverage.
There you go. Unlimited calls, texts and data with 99% 4G population coverage for $14.99 a month. You clear? They are. Clear Mobile. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Switch today at clearmobile.ie. 30-day contract. Activation fee and fair use applies. Max data speed 5 megabits per second. See clearmobile.ie for terms.
The Groom's Room is now open and taking bookings for all you grooms getting married. Contact us at Evolve Clothing, Letterkenny Retail Park.
For a huge selection of furniture, all at one showroom, pull into Grow Furnishings in Letterkenny. Sofas, beds, wardrobes, tables and chairs. Also a range of carpet, vinyl, rugs and laminated flooring. If it's time for a change, it's time for a visit to Grow Furnishings. Grove deliver throughout Donegal, Derry and Tyrone. Be inspired at Grow Furnishings, Kiltoy Road, Letterkenny.
Keep up to date with Inish Fitness Dunlow and download their convenient app today for news and information, to join online or to buy and book classes. There's also access to the Techno Gym app for tracking your progress and tutorials for using the equipment. Inish Fitness Dunlow, the future of fitness in West Donegal.
I joined Bluebird Care as a healthcare assistant. It's so rewarding that at 70, I'm still here.
I love my job and it fits around my lifestyle.
The training and support I received is superb.
It doesn't feel like I'm working.
Visit bluebirdcarecareers.ie to find out how you can join our expanding team of healthcare assistants.
My only regret is that I didn't join sooner.
This is not just a career in care, this is a career with Bluebird Care.
Now, a man who went on a shooting rampage with a high-powered rifle in Glenties has been jailed for 8 years. 24-year-old Stephen Dowling of Burren Road in County Carlow went on what was described as a Wild West rampage in February of 2020. He was sentenced at Letterkenny Circuit Court yesterday. Obviously, we've been speaking to people who were caught up in it on that night and them sharing their experiences. But obviously, too, we've been hearing from representatives of Garda Síochána. We heard from Brendan O'Connor. And now we welcome into studio Garda Sergeant Paul Wallace. He's the National Executive Member for Connacht Ulster of the Association of Garda Sergeants and Inspectors. Thank you very much for joining us, Paul.
Good morning, Greg.
It's good to have you in.
Yeah, thanks.
I mean, there's a lot to unravel here, but firstly, what I've been feeling is that we were very lucky. You know, we were very lucky in terms of no members of the public getting injured or killed here, and very lucky from your perspective as well, from no members of the force being shot, injured or killed. And a lot of that's down to obviously the skill of your colleagues, don't get me wrong, in how they would deal with it. But look, and we can't be relying on luck.
No, exactly. And, you know, I suppose we would never thought that you'd have like a hostage situation unfolding on the streets of Glenties, above all places, a very nice, quiet and law-abiding town in West Donegal. But it just shows you this can happen anywhere. We were lucky, as you say. The people of Glenties were lucky. The young people coming on the bus from Killybegs were lucky. The guards were lucky. You know, it just was one of those things. But you have to have a plan, and you have to be operational and be operational safe. And, you know, the current Garda mission statement is a Conal Dini Slan is keeping people safe, but that also has to apply to our members as well. And it's not to go saying all the wrongs of this, but I suppose the important thing, and what I think both rep bodies, AGSI and GRA, have called for, is there has to be a review now again. We've looked for this for a while. We've looked for the resource, and we have to acknowledge that the Commissioner has put an extra unit into Cavan, which is in our region as such. You know, we have to acknowledge that, but that's far away. Do
we have to acknowledge that? Because, you know, that might say, well, we've put a unit into the border region.
Yeah.
Can they travel through Northern Ireland?
No, they can't.
I mean, come on.
And
I don't think we have to accept that at all.
And you see, I suppose the big one here, Greg, is geography plays a big part here. You know, it's like the symbol from Walsh, Ireland. Up here we're different, and we are different, but up here we're on our own is more important.
You see, the thing about it is that the only time these guys would be required, and I use that across genders, right, is in a situation whereby, and we see it all the time, someone is in a house and there are weapons within the house. Maybe
we've had it here.
And maybe someone is in there with them. A situation like this where someone is roaming the streets with a gun, you know, there is no wiggle room in time. That is, these people need to be on scene. If it's not to defend the public and protect the public or those involved, your members standing, effectively with a baton and a whistle.
We're an unarmed force, and long may we continue, and we police by consent, and all of that has been said. But the dynamic of Irish society has changed. We see it all the time. It unfolds every day. Turned on the news yesterday evening. The first 5 or 6 stories was something to do with the guards. The guards were doing this, they were doing that, they were looking for this, they were looking for that. So, we have to, but geography is playing a big part in Donegal in relation to armed support, and we've seen it. And the unusual, or not the fun, it's not fun, there's nothing funny about it, but that was the second barricade, if you want to call it barricade incident in the county. One was just finishing when that started. One was just finishing in Letterkenny. And if you're down the country, if you're down the Midlands, anywhere around there, you have various different divisions that you can call on for support. We don't have anybody. So we have 4 districts here.
Where are they based? Because they came from Milford, right?
Yeah, well, that was the armed detective. That was the detective members. That wasn't the armed support.
But they had guns. Those.
They did. Yeah,
okay.
They carry firearms. Yeah.
So, in other words, like generally speaking, are there guards of a particular rank that carry weapons throughout the county? Yeah, you have plainclothes members that carry what they carry weapons, but they're really personal protection specialists. Then. Yeah, but the weapons that they carry are really personal protection weapons. I think they call a SIG. It used to be in Smith & Wesson. They used to carry the Aussie submachine gun, and that was withdrawn. And there's been a whole debate about that as well. So, in terms of the official arms response, so these are the people that come in that can deal with the barricade situation. Where is the nearest team to us? Ballyshannon. Okay. And we've called for resource in there. There's 1 sergeant there now at the moment. It's not enough. We need a review of the strength there. And the capability they have. You see them driving around. They use X5 BMWs, large jeeps with armed support written on them. They're very professional, very competent, and very well equipped. From what I know, I don't know much about firearms, but they are the people that deal with that, and very professional at what they do. They're young, they're agile, they're committed. They're very courteous people. They're top class people. But we just need we need a review as a result of this incident about the geography of Donegal. That's the first thing. The second thing we need is the post-incident support. We need a mandatory system in place. It's not to support your members. Support our members. Can I come to that in a moment? Because I want to talk about this armed response. That's no problem. Okay, and that's a very important issue. It is. Well, it's an important issue for me. Of course it is. The members you represent. But in terms of what is realistic, okay, are we talking about maybe having these specialists based at every 24-hour station, for example? I mean, is that a realistic call? I think in Donegal, and I suppose you have to be careful not to go into the operational side of things, and I've said it myself a number of times, as I said before there, the geography. Ballyshannon is where we have the armed support in Donegal. It's at the bottom of the county. To get to an incident in Inishowen, you're still talking an hour and 20 minutes, no matter what type of vehicle and what type of light you have, because you're going on good roads, bad roads, twisty roads, all of that sort of thing. I suppose strategically, why they're based in Ballyshannon is they can go south to cover Sligo, and the Sligo was a busy area as well. That's the elephant in the room. That's the elephant in the room. Because really, if the truth be told, I would say at least 1.5 eyes are on Sligo. Yeah, I would in how they're being positioned. Yeah, I couldn't disagree with that. And at the end of the day, to Donegal, from a Garda point of view, there's one road in and one road out. Is the road coming up past where you live, and that's it. It's the main N15 coming up. We don't have other routes where people can come. We can't call on the PSNI. You could have an armed support sitting in Strabane, tactical support, I think they call it. You could have an incident in Lifford. We can't. It doesn't happen. It can't happen. So at the very least, we need, if not the guys based in Sligo, we need a team based in a relatively central location, which could actually even be Letterkenny. Well, it would probably be Letterkenny in Donegal. Yeah, and we're having a review or a change in our divisional structure, and Letterkenny is supposed to become the centre for the divisional or a hub or whatever they call it, the different names. But of course, that would also send a message out to those who perpetrate crime. Now, Greg, if you look, if there wasn't a unit in Letterkenny, and it's not that they're always sitting in the station, they're out in patrol, and they can't be everywhere either.
But at least they could get in a shown within a reasonable time frame. They could get to West Donegal, where this case unfolded, in a reasonable time frame.
And they would be in the population centre,
yes,
which is Letterkenny too, which obviously there's a bit of logic to that.
It's lopsided in Ballyshannon, no matter what anybody says. It's definitely lopsided, and we have our authorities, the Department of Justice, the government, the Gardai authorities, the Commissioner, they have to look at Donegal is still a different case, and that it's surrounded by water, and there's one road in and one road out.
It's a border county as well,
yes.
And we know the border can be used at times.
Yes, it has been historically over the years.
Historically, I mean, it's. I think if you asked anyone down the country, if they said effectively, we have no arms response unit. Now you could, obviously Ballyshannon, but it's right at the bottom of the county. It's in a different electoral area.
Well, they can be in Sligo and in a very, very short time frame.
Of course. 30 minutes probably.
Well, at full tilt, probably 15, 20.
Right, I suppose, that's right.
And that's what when they go, they have to go, and they have the vehicles. That's the reason they have them type of cars. But to get to Letterkenny, to get to any part, to get to bloody Foreland, to get to Inishowen, as I said, there's no point in labouring the point. People know.
Yeah, but it's actually quite important, because people listening are going, right, if something like that happened here. Now, you see,
our people really should have that level of backup.
The problem I have with this is, I have to be careful, because we're local, and the people that maybe have been negatively affected by this might be listening. But we need these people on scene very, very quickly before something escalates.
Yeah. Well, the people of Glenties that night were very, very lucky. Like, when you had somebody firing off indiscriminate rounds, there was one went into a private house, there was one went into a car, there were two into the patrol car or whatever. Well,
can you comment on the sentencing?
I don't know the detail of what went on, and I don't need to know.
Well, we know bullets missed your members by inches.
Yeah.
8 years max sentence, presumably might be 3 or 4. Who's to say? Does that send out a strong enough message can you comment on this if you can't say no? Does that send out a strong enough message to say that you can't even point a gun in the direction or possibly of the force, strike a patrol car?
Well, some people, I can comment and I can't comment. I suppose at the end of it's probably on the upper end of what we see in sentencing in Ireland. The sentencing is a matter for the judge. The judge did make a very good statement, and he said that when the government or when the people of Ireland grant somebody a firearms certificate, they're granting a certain level of responsibility with it as well. Now, I know that man was very young. He's only in his early 20s. I'm sure this is something he'll regret for the rest of his life. But when you have our members going out and you see the testimony from Detective Gardai Jennings, like where he said he did think, he knew he was outgunned. He did think that he wouldn't be seeing his wife and children.
Get home again?
Yeah, and I spoke to Sergeant Griffin, myself, Eamon Griffin, who joined the Guards. We both went to the regional college together years ago, and I called him to his home, and he was very, very shaken, and he's not a guy that shakes easy.
And we're going to talk about that support again, but this notion, right, that we had to rely on unarmed Gardaí first responders there leading.
Yeah, they did very good work at the scene.
I know, but it's embarrassing.
No, I know it is.
Not what they did.
No, it's not. I shouldn't say it. It is embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. Let me phrase it. You're not saying it. It's embarrassing of us as a state that we have to rely on them employing such amazing tactics and thinking so quickly.
Quick thinking.
Do you get where I'm coming from? It's not in any way a reflection.
And I'm not saying
it's not a reflection on them.
On the members.
No.
They did very good work.
They did amazing.
Yeah.
But the fact that they had to show that level of ingenuity,
and tenacity, and
they shouldn't have
fear and everything else, all these human emotions come into what they did very well.
They did amazingly well.
But they were left exposed.
Exactly.
And the people were left exposed.
And if I were in a decision making power, it would be me that would feel embarrassed for putting them in that position. Let me just say that's an easier way of putting it. Now, you talked about supports, right? And the how this impacted on people. Talk to me about that. What needs to be done there?
Well, the GRA have called as well, and we had a full conference a number of years ago in relation to welfare supports and a number of things, and certainly things have moved on, and some extra supports have been put in place, but we need the two things that's probably needed is a mandatory hot debrief after an incident like that. That people are taken in, they're asked what happened, that information is collated very, very quickly. First thing. Second thing, there needs to be mandatory post-traumatic stress welfare support. The people, because I suppose if you're in a situation where it's traumatic, you probably want to go into a corner and not talk to anybody. Sometimes we still have that feeling that it's a feeling of weakness if we have to reach out to somebody. We need to break that myth, and the way to break it is if you were on scene, you have to come, whether you like it or not, and sit down. You mightn't get all the support you need on day one, but it sets and train a chain of events, and we have to have that for people. It has to be, so there should be standard operating procedures in relation to that, as well as the location and all of that, because when you listen to the testimony or what we did, read it through the news, and it has been well covered and all of that, put yourself in that situation.
Maybe the HSE had a responsibility to make that type of service available to
but
people
it can't be ad hoc. It has to be if something like this happens, and I suppose fortunately for us and unfortunately we see these things developing in other parts of the world, particularly in America and places like that there, and I suppose it's nearly a roundtable discussion to get all these people in, to have the standard procedures in place, standard operating procedures, so that people are proper people are there, and if you're there, you mandatorily have to attend.
I mean, that is something the Gardai will have to decide to do. You're making the call, the GRA making the call. The location of a special armed response unit at Letterkenny, we hope that forms part of the.
Well, we're not saying Letterkenny, we'll be saying
central to Donegal. Let's say that might form part of the redesignation, or if that's what how it's described.
We would hope that.
What else? What else needs to be done, really, to deal with this level? We've talked previously about other resources, so we won't get into all of that. But I'm on about in response to a serious incident like this here. Is there anything else that needs to be done to help your members?
Well, what you would hope in relation to that if there's a meaningful and structured review into this, it'll throw up the what else.
Yeah, okay.
It's not for me to say some of this is operational and all of that, and to say this, that and the other. The guards that were on duty that night were fortunate to come away with their lives. We've seen it happening with the members in Dundalk and down in County Louth, how they paid the ultimate price. And anybody can go out and pay the ultimate price, but particularly if you're a member of a frontline service, increasingly we are being put into that place where we need them supports, where we need to have proper reviews being carried out, and we would hope reviews can't be carried out until after the court case. Now is the time for action in this. And
like strong comments from the judge should be a catalyst for that too. Detectives are armed, as you mentioned. Also, there's a highly trained armed 24 daily patrol in Finnercamp, Ballyshannon that are available in an ATCP role. The military backed up the Gardai for many years on the border and the Donegal region.
Yeah, it was part of that.
Is that something we should be looking at? Obviously, there's no army in Lifford anymore.
No,
there's no army in Letterkenny anymore, as far as I'm aware. So, is there?
Well, that's probably a meaningful consideration and a meaningful discussion when there would be a review, or when there is a review, and we would hope the review would happen sooner rather than later, where all these factors could be taken into place. But certainly for our members, the location, strategic response, strategic availability of resources, follow-up support from a point of view of welfare and all of that. They're the things that we would be asking for now.
And finally, just on the sentencing side of things, I suppose, in reality, the instant emotion is, lock someone up and throw away the key. But I suppose having your liberties removed from you from 8 years is not insignificant either. I mean, if he were to serve the full sentence, he's going to be in his 30s. I mean, it's...
Yeah, he's a young man. The members themselves said he cooperated well with them once he was in a fit state to do so. He has his life in front of him. It's going to affect him. He is, I think, one young child. There's no winners in the like of this, but the message has to go out too, that if you are in possession of firearms, or somebody who's in possession of them, there's very, very strict and serious responsibilities in relation to. And like initially, the guards were of the opinion that this was a shotgun. very, very quickly.
Which is
they
a
learned
very different thing.
A different case
with.
was that this was a high-powered rifle. Plus, he had a lens or a telescopic lens, and then there was an item strapped to his body that they thought was something else, some sort of explosive device, which was a moderator or a silencer in ordinary words. So this man was very well equipped.
Plus dressed in camo gear.
Camouflage gear, and this is a life-changing thing for him and for his family. And, we can talk about that, but as you say, he's going to be approaching 30 years of age when he gets free.
But this is rare, and it hasn't happened before, or probably won't happen again. But a situation in a property where someone has access to a vehicle, maybe there might be other people in there, and access, it's not a vehicle, a weapon, and that could be a knife. You know what I mean? These things happen with irregularity. So I don't, whilst it's important to focus on Glenties and that may not have ever happened again up here.
No,
but situations that require the level of response that we talk of to save life and to protect both your members and the members of the public, unfortunately, they do happen with some regularity.
Well, they do. Like when you think we had one closing down, one armed or barricade incident, and another one opens up just literally on the same day in the same week. We've had a number in the county, so nobody can say that anywhere doesn't happen there anymore. You don't know. The dynamic of people has changed. We have people coming and going to different areas, whether they've access to weaponry or not, be it legitimate or otherwise. These are all factors that have to be considered, and you have to think about that. The members that were there, I want to add my commendation to them. They did very well. They acquitted themselves very well. They probably will have the scars of it going forward for some time. But I think actually what's nice, your words obviously are important, but the local community themselves have written to the Garda Commissioner, I believe, looking for them to be recognised for their action. So when your own community or the community that you serve also make that same call, it's all the more meaningful, I think. Yeah, and I think the community in Glenties, they're to be commended because they were very forthcoming to the investigation team. They didn't go out talking left, right and centre to different people. They kept it all fairly tight, which is important from an investigative point of view as well. And but they did the meaningful thing by writing to the Garda Commissioner and asking him to recognise these people. All right then, Garda Sergeant Paul Wallace, National Executive Member for Connacht Ulster of the AGSI. We appreciate your time this morning, and pass on our good wishes to your colleagues if you happen to be speaking to them. Yeah, thanks Greg, thanks very much.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
Oh, traffic. We're going to be so late.
We're going to miss the vows.
Everyone will see us sneak in. So embarrassing.
We'll have to get changed in a lay-by. Oh, look, McDonald's. Do you know they're doing a chicken Big Mac?
Probably best to just blend into the crowd after.
Yeah, it's not like we're family.
The chicken Big Mac has landed. But hurry, it's not around for long. Served after 11 a.m, subject to availability until the 15th of March.
New this week in Home Store and More. All fitness is half price. But better hurry, because when all our half price fitness is gone, it's gone. Also, all rugs and all fireside accessories are still half price. But when all our half price rugs and all our half price fireside accessories are gone, they're definitely gone. Order online before 2 p.m. for next day delivery, or drop by your local Home Store and More. Home Store and More. A happy home.
We're Danielle, Kevin and Bonnie. We took the challenge and swapped to Aldi.
The price difference is insane, like the nappies and stuff. She loves all the baby food, and we feel like, we don't even need to read, like, say, the ingredients on the back of the baby food anymore. The quality is just incredible. I was terrible at saving money, but now I'm great.
We actually probably would have saved more if the middle aisle didn't exist.
Yeah, but it's so much fun.
Aldi, the home sweet home of swap and save. For further information, see aldi.ie.
Treat yourself or a loved one to a Clarins gift of beauty from McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Purchase 2 Clarins skincare products, one to be a moisturiser or serum, and you'll get a choice of 4 treat-sized essentials from a selection of 8, together with a gorgeous cosmetics bag. Which 4 will you choose? Available while stocks last, in store at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny and online at mcgees.ie, where the best costs less.
Highland Radio Time Checks, brought to you by Letterkenny Shopping Centre, the centre of shopping in Donegal. Free parking and shopping all under one roof. Letterkenny Shopping Centre, bringing you the time at...
The time's 11:28. We welcome onto the programme Senator Eileen Flynn. Eileen, thanks for joining us. Good to speak to you.
Good morning, Greg. How are things?
Good, and thank you very much for raising this one, because it's one that bothers me. It has bothered me. The media coverage of these cases bother me because they use the phraseology of child pornography. But if they are to accurately reflect the charges and the convictions or what have you, then they have to use those words, and we need to get rid of them. This is not a category of pornography. It's absolutely disgusting that this phraseology is on the statute books.
Yeah, like for me personally, Greg, I feel very uncomfortable even hearing the word child pornography. You know, a child doesn't consent for their pictures not to be taken of them with no clothes, etc. And I think it is abuse, you know. And I think any adult in their right mind would, like, who's sensible, if you want, in the right mind, would not sit and watch child pornography. In my opinion, it's abuse in every way. So therefore, you know, just looking at changing the language in our legislation to child sexual exploitation material.
And would this require a huge legislative change, or is it easier to change terminology, Eileen? Have we been able to determine that?
For us in our office, Greg, just to say to you, we've been working on looking at changing it since last year. You know, a lot of work has gone into it, a lot of legal advice, getting people to examine how it can be done. To the best of my knowledge, it's never been done before. No one has never tried it before. But that's not saying it can't be done. You know, and what would happen is it would change the phrase child pornography to child sexual exploitation materials, and basically that would change the name of the Child Trafficking and Pornography Act and the Amendment Act of 2004, you know, and those acts would be renamed to Child Trafficking and Child Sexual Exploitation Material Act 1998 and the Child Trafficking and Child Sexual Exploitation Material Amendment Act 2004, and all of them we'll rename all of the legislation where it says child pornography.
Now, in relation to child sexual exploitation material, I mean, obviously, I presume the terminology has been formed from legal advice. In and of itself, people might say, well, why isn't it not called child sexual abuse material? Because the children are being abused, the pictures are abuse, whereas exploitation maybe might not have the same gravity in reporting of this as the word exploitation might have.
For us, again, you know, from our work that we've done in this for the last year, Greg, it's the best way for us to change it, and we can even look at it going forward, is exploitation, because you're putting children at risk. You're showing images of children, and some people may argue that it's not abuse, and that like we'd all know that it's abuse, you know, but for legal reasons, we believe that it's child sexual exploitation with materials, using children, so... Yeah,
I understand. That's what I suspected, because you can't leave any wiggle room and it has to be legally sound.
See, a lot of things, Greg, to be honest with you, a lot of things seem to be simple, but when you're in here and trying to change the laws, trying to change the language, which in this case we're trying to do is the language, because language defines us, language spreads fast, and I know that more than a lot of your listeners, due to being a traveller woman, that a lot of the time it's this stigma of language that we need to change, and within our laws, within our legislation, the language really defines what the crime is, and I believe in our office and other senators that I work with in the civil engagement group also believes that, it's the language, it's it's going forward, you know, people would think twice about their crime, and it doesn't have the focus and the victim. The focus of the crime then is on the perpetrator, which is very important.
Okay. I can't imagine anyone would resist this in defence of using the phrase child pornography. There might be a legal defence or whatever, or what I presume we've also been putting the feelers out to government. Is this going to happen as far as you can determine, Eileen?
You know, I'm not 100% sure, because in politics you don't be 100% sure, but I hope so. It seems to have got positive reaction for cross-party support. And, you know, Greg, again, I think a lot of people are very uncomfortable with the term child pornography. It doesn't sit right with a lot of people, and especially people like ourselves who are parents of very young children. You know, so I actually think it's the right thing to do. It's to shift that narrative. Thinking you know, and that we together can, and this is only the start for me personally in our office, to change some of the legislation, the language in our legislation, and we just need to move forward and stop trying to cover things up in this in Irish society and making things sound not as bad as what they are. We need to name it for something that it is, you know.
Yeah, okay, listen, I wish you every success in this area, and the sooner the better. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much, Greg, and we're hoping if it does pass that we can get it passed in the Dáil as well over the next coming months to push it from our angle here in the office as well. Thanks so much, Greg, to you and to your listeners.
Okay, well done, Eileen. Thank you very much indeed. That is Senator Eileen Flynn. 086 60 25,000, your WhatsApps and texts. A caller says they're missing the big picture. Someone responsible for a crime like this should get 10 years for drug taking and 20 years for firing a rifle. Another caller says, thank God that no Gardai and no members of the public got killed or injured in that rampage in Glenties. The Gardai certainly need more resources to protect us and to protect themselves as well. Right, we were also talking to Deirdre Grant, and that her experience has resonated, not surprisingly, with lots of you out there. And here are some of your comments in relation to that. Greg, I think that Deirdre is a very important voice for all of us, because what's going on in hospital is awful. All you hear is COVID restrictions and people not allowed in. Now you can make an appointment, I think, for half an hour. It's a way of hiding all the effing S that's happening. And of course, I understand I can't read the language out, but I understand your language. And also, the gentleman we spoke to yesterday, 88 years of age, right? 88 years of age from Inishowen, and he travelled down to see his sister, who's getting weaker. She's 87 in hospital. Just in case you didn't hear this yesterday, it was towards the end of the programme, I think. And he couldn't get into the hospital because only one person could go in, and he was with his sister's son, his nephew. Okay, and his nephew was able to go on and see his mother, but he couldn't. Now, I put it to him, because I don't want to presume just because he's 87 that he would have any mobility issues or what have you. But you would imagine, you would say, okay, well, you go in with that other person just so you know where you're going in the hospital and all that type of stuff. But that didn't happen. Now, we've made an inquiry to the hospital as to what's going on there, but do we really want to live in a society? And as I said yesterday, the reason I think most of us went along and made the sacrifices we did was to allow a situation where an 88-year-old man could go in and see his 87-year-old sister, who he fears is getting sicker in hospital. That's what, for what else? I mean, we did it for other reasons, but you know what I mean? So there's other things going on as well. Greg, I'm in bits listening to Deirdre about that poor lady that was left on the chair and ended up with sores. It's absolutely disgusting. Thank you very much, Deirdre, for highlighting this, and thank you, Greg, for letting her. Listening to Deirdre makes me so sad. My elderly parent was in LUH in September 2020. We wrote a letter of complaint and are still awaiting a response. God love and protect the elderly and the vulnerable. Another, I agree 100% with Deirdre. The A&E is a shambles, they say. Another, Greg, we need more people like Deirdre to speak out the true facts of what's happening in the ED. It needs a good wake-up call. Finally, the truth has come out. Good girl, Deirdre. Another, how very brave of Deirdre to highlight the major problems at Letterkenny University Hospital. What is going on there? There doesn't seem to be any organisation at all here, and how come nobody is ever held accountable for anything? Another, that woman would be a nightmare. Poor doctors and nurses. Imagine her having someone else's records and not returning them. We've been living through a pandemic. Now, I get where you're coming from, but if out of that whole story of 25 minutes, if the takeaway from that, from your perspective is that she's got photocopies of someone else's records, I think you maybe didn't listen to the full interview and the experience of Deirdre, but also a vulnerable lady. Okay, so I get where you're coming from, but there was an awful lot going on there in that story, except for that bit. Greg, I can concur so much with Deirdre's story. It would take me a month to write it up, so much so that I need surgery for the last 3 years plus and won't have it done. Greg, I totally agree with Deirdre. It's definitely a management problem in the hospital. My elderly mother went by ambulance to hospital and to stay in the ambulance for 3 hours outside casualty as there was no cubicle inside. Not alone was this uncomfortable for her, it held back that ambulance that may have been needed for an emergency in the community. When she eventually got in, she was ignored for 6 hours before I had to insist she got a CT scan. The reason she was there, as she had hit her head at that stage 9 hours earlier. Another, I hope the next time Mr. Murphy's on your show, you give him an opportunity to comment on the issues raised by Deirdre. We never avoid questions or issues when we have access to Sean Murphy, so you can be sure I will. And don't let him fob you off by saying that he can't comment on individual cases. I know ways around those responses, so don't worry about that. And sometimes the non-answer is the answer, okay? It's not just whomever you might be speaking to. You ask the question a number of times. If there's not an answer, that's the answer. 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts. Kieran O'Donnell's on his way in shortly.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by Bluebird Care, providing nurse-led home care services in Donegal. Call Bluebird Care 91295562 and bring care home.
For great fuel deals, contact Gortley Sales and Hire. Large sacks and trailer loads of logs. Also briquettes, coal, kindling and gas with free delivery locally. Contact Gortley Sales and Hire in Letterkenny on 9126276.
Thinking of hiring a locksmith? Or do you provide locksmith services? Did you know that locksmiths must hold a PSA licence issued by the Private Security Authority? Locksmiths who operate without a licence, and anyone employing one, is breaking the law and could face prosecution and fines. For more information on how to get a licence or to report an unlicensed locksmith, visit psa-gov.ie. Issued by the Private Security Authority, the security regulator.
Looking for an easier way to get your prescriptions filled? Look no further. With our new Brennan's Pharmacy app, you have a simpler, faster way to manage your prescription orders. Just download the free Brennan's Pharmacy app from Google Play or App Store, fill in a few simple details about yourself and your medicines, and you're all set. From prescription ordering, daily medicine reminders, to messaging our pharmacy team directly, it's all at your fingertips with our new Brennan's app. Like to know more? Why not call your local Brennan's Pharmacy today for more information? We're here for you.
For businesses, it's time to make up time. At Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles, we're ready. With HP finance from 3.9% for those who see opportunity, purchase contributions of up to €3,500 for those who make it happen. And for those who give complete focus, service plans from $9.99 per month. Test drive the Caddy Cargo, Transporter and Crafter at your local Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles dealer or visit volkswagenvans.ie. For those who build tomorrow, the time is now. Finance provided by way of hire purchase agreement from Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland and subject to lending criteria. Terms and conditions apply.
Call into Connolly's Volkswagen Letterkenny today to find out more, or visit connellys.ie.
Business Matters in association with Letterkenny IT's Faculty of Business. Applications are now open for the highly regarded Masters in Leadership and Innovation in the public sector. Also a Masters in Governance, Compliance and Data Protection in Financial Services, and a certificate in Online Dispute Management. Visit lyit.ie for more information.
And despite popular demand, due to popular demand, we welcome back into studio Kieran O'Donnell, the presenter of the Business Matters podcast here from Highland Radio. It's available for you to listen on demand on our website, highlandradio.com, via Spotify and iTunes, and it's broadcast for you to listen on a Sunday evening as well. And popular it is. Okay, Kieran, good morning. How was your week? We were talking there about how January just disappeared. And it's already heading into February. What's going on?
January usually seems a very long month, but for some reason this year it seems quite short. I would say maybe the lifting of restrictions and the sense of hope and optimism may be well factored in the way we're seeing how quick time's going by.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? Okay, it's probably an age thing as well. I think we talked about it a little bit just before we put the mics up. I think as you get older, does time move quicker?
So if I'm going as well as you are when I'm in your age, I'll be quite happy.
Yeah, well, you've a few years yet, but if you need any tips about getting to my age, before you do, I'll let you know. Right, let's get on to some news. Northwest Business optimistic for the year ahead, which is good because sentiment's important.
Very much. 75% of Northwest businesses have said they are confident their business can grow in 2020 despite ongoing pressures, a new survey has found. So a survey of Dairy Chamber members revealed optimism for the year ahead from the Northwest companies despite the ongoing difficulties presented by COVID-19 and rising costs. When asked about specific cost increases, 65% cited energy costs, while 58% cited staffing difficulties. 6 in 10 businesses said they were considering price increases in the next 12 months in response. So it was a wee bit of a downside to that one.
Yeah, but I suppose there's only so much increases they can absorb, and I suppose it depends too in which area of business they're in. Right, there is funding available from Rethink Ireland, and there's a message for those who might be able to avail of it.
Yeah, local social enterprises are being encouraged to apply for funding through Rethink Ireland's Social Enterprise Development Fund 2022, which has officially opened for applications. There is 400,000 and funding is being made available to find and back best social enterprises in Ireland by making cash grants and strategic business support available to awardees. So check out Rethink Ireland's social media platforms for more info. And listen, I checked it up online myself here last night. It does seem a very good initiative to get involved in.
Yeah, and there's quite a few funding sources out there, and there might be people listening think, well, that's not for my initiative or my business or my group. Get in there, get your applications.
It's a not-for-profit organisation, and they're very much getting behind enterprises that are going to work.
All right, new car sales, a different picture locally and nationally, it seems.
Yeah, just slightly. There was a 2.5% increase in car sales for the month of January 2022 compared to the same period last year. 619 cars were registered for the month just past, an increase of 15 on the figure for January 2021. So nationally, new car registrations for the month of January are down slightly, as 0.2%, 25,903. When compared to January 2021, 25,140. Used car imports saw a 40.8% decrease in January when compared with January 2021, which is significant. And new electric car registrations reached their highest month on record with 2,714 registered in 2022 compared to 977 in January 2021.
I mean, there's a few things going on there. I think the shortage of new cars is a problem. I would say those figures would be much greater, both locally and nationally, if the new cars were available. Obviously, there's a shortage of chips and what have you, and that means the pipeline is just... I think we'll see a big bump towards the end of the first quarter and into the second quarter as more new cars become available, because there are people on waiting lists for these vehicles. And secondly, also, I do wonder, in terms of imports, I know a lot of people that maybe deal in imported cars stocked up quite a lot last year. Maybe did that skew the figures a little bit, or with Brexit and all the NOx charges and everything else, maybe. Do you know, if we moved to driving on the right-hand side of the road, it'd be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
We look at all the places we could get second-hand cars from. Yeah. We're stuck at the British market because we drive on the left.
There are a lot of variables. I was surprised that nationally it had just dropped slightly. Locally, it has gone up slightly. So I was talking to somebody there recently who were offered... the same money for their car that they bought it for 3 years previous.
Yeah, no bother to them. All right,
it's a no-brainer, isn't it? If you
but they have to replace it, though.
But if you're going to change it and you're in a position to change it, it's a no-brainer.
In terms of left-hand drive car, right? Say you were in the market for a car,
yes,
and it was, say, right-hand drive, say 20 grand, but you could get it in left-hand drive for 16 grand. Would you drive a left hand?
I would. Reluctantly.
You'd be getting the exact same car. You get the exact same car, right? The only difference would be you'd be sitting in the passenger seat.
For 4,000 more, I would be happy to sit drive on the right hand side.
I wonder. Yeah, but it's interesting though. All right. Hi, Greg. Would you say well done to Kieran for his good run at the race last weekend? From Tony McCarry, still going. Well, for nearly an old boy, I thought he's still running. For an old boy, he describes. Yeah, it's like Tony's a good friend of yours, isn't he?
Tony.
Right, a big farm changed hands.
Yeah, an Anish-owned farm has been sold for €1 million. The 116-acre plot had an asking price of €850,000. Buncrana estate agent Dara Fury told the Farmers Journal that while he wasn't in a position to say who had bought the land, he said the buyer was a wealthy individual from the Republic of Ireland.
All right, whether we're being encouraged to do so or choosing to do so, one way or other, we're spending more on our cards.
Yeah, total debit and credit card spending, including ATM withdrawals, hit a record $8.4 billion in December as consumers spent more in shops and online in the lead up to Christmas, according to the central bank. This was the highest spend recorded in the series, which began in January 2015. It was also an 8% increase on the December 2020 period. Point of sale spending was 10% higher in December when compared to December 2020 at $7.2 billion, while ATM withdrawals decreased by 2% to $1.2 billion.
All right.
A lot of money and a lot of spending in December, Greg.
It certainly was. Right, okay, that is Kieran O'Donnell there. We're going to be hearing what's coming up on the Business Matters podcast itself after we take this quick break.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
It's Derek Ryan live at the Millennium Forum Derry on Saturday the 26th of February. Derek will be joined by special guests Olivia Douglas and Owen Mack. Last remaining tickets are available now from millenniumforum.co.uk. That's Derek Ryan live at the Millennium Forum, Saturday the 26th of February.
I practice mixology. It's like biology, only with more gin.
Andy, bartender.
I am a caffeine delivery technician.
Sharon, barista.
I use my experience to make yours better.
Stanley, tourism experience manager. They've all been explaining their jobs in their own words on behalf of Northern Ireland's tourism and hospitality industries. Discover hundreds of amazing opportunities in tourism and hospitality right now when you search careerscope.uk.net/NI. Explain them any way you want.
At Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, we are now operating out of one new state-of-the-art showroom in Donegal Town. And we invite you to visit our new 5,000 square foot Donegal Town showroom to discover the latest eye-catching designs. Remember, at Cherrymore, you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, which means high-quality kitchens at factory prices. Start planning your dream kitchen or bedroom by calling Cherrymore on 074 9725 822. Cherrymore, 25 years delivering value, quality and service all over Ireland.
Your specialty is quality tiles, bathroom suites and wooden floors. Who is the best range of tiles in Donegal?
Crawford Tiles.
The best wood flooring?
Crawford Tiles.
The best bathroom suites?
Crawford Tiles.
5-day bathroom refits?
Crawford Tiles.
And who's been tampering with my questions?
That'd be me.
Crawford Tiles, Castlefin. That'd be them. 07491 43942.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Discover Edinburgh this summer with Ryanair's 3 times weekly service. Stunning architecture, endless winding streets and an awe-inspiring castle. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Okay, so a mix of cloudy, sunny spells and patchy drizzle in places this morning. Cloudy though in the afternoon with outbreaks of rain and drizzle becoming more widespread. Temperatures 8 to 10 degrees, winds moderate, west to southwest winds, just in case you're sailing anywhere. Right, okay, Kieran's still in studio with us. Tell us what's coming up on this week's podcast.
My guest this week, Greg, is Martin Harley, owner of Harley's Cheers Bar in Balbuffet and treasurer of the Donegal branch of the Vintners Federation of Ireland. A Fine Gael County Councillor for the Lifford Northern Municipal District, Martin is also Vice Chair of Donegal ETB. He's been a publican in the Twin Towns for 31 years, having started out life as a carpenter before becoming a postman in Dublin in 1983. A transfer to Balbuffet in 1985 would eventually lead him to setting up his own business 5 years later. I asked Martin what was the best lesson he'd learned in business.
Look after your customers and treat them well, and you'll always. I can say probably in 28 years that we've been here, I've seen a lot of people come and go in different businesses on the main street and the pub game, and every time one came, you always think this person's going to come and they're going to close you down, and you always think, oh, this is the end of me now. They're going to take all my business. But people will move around and they'll go to other posts, but I think if you look after them and treat them well, they'll always come back to you, and there's always a business. There's always plenty of business for everybody, and that's the main thing. I always find that you always think that people think that there's never going to be enough. There's always enough. There's loads. We'll have enough to do us, and that never was. Money never was one of my gods. In fact, I would sponsor different things down the years that. If my wife Denise really actually knew how much I sponsored down the years, she wouldn't be impressed. But I don't mind. I've loved doing that. I've loved helping out.
All right, he's involved in a lot of things. An interesting person, and a lot in that interview, Kieran.
Yeah, as you said, Martin said there's plenty of business to go around. Just one thing that I forgot to mention: Martin harboured ambitions of becoming a chef after he left school, and he had a decision to become a chef or to train for a chef or become a postman. He took the option of the postman, but he went back not that long ago to become a chef, and he's developed his culinary skills as well, and obviously that helps his business, but it was something he wanted to do and he succeeded in doing. And he talked about going back to school and go back to the learning environment as well. Which
it's
is
just an itch yet to scratch by the sounds of it then.
Very much.
Culinary
but, as you say, very much part of the community, very involved, and will be known as a very genuine and a very kind person.
All right, that full interview is available for you to listen to when you like with Martin Harley. It's available now on our website, highlandradio.com, in the playback section, and also on Spotify and iTunes. And if you want to listen to it on air, Kieran, remind us.
Yeah, we'll be broadcast on Sunday evening, Greg, after the 6 o'clock news.
And if anyone wants to contact you or comment on the show or suggest an item or request or whatever it might be, you don't do requests, I mean request an interview.
Yeah, just drop me an email, please. businessmatters@highlandradio.com.
And you can have a chat to Kieran and see what can be done. All right then, Kieran O'Donnell, presenter of the Business Matters podcast from Highland Radio. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
And Kieran will be back with us next Wednesday between 11:30 and 12 noon. Right, so we'll be back with a wrap up and your comments after this break.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
It's time for Ncbi Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Wednesday the 2nd of February. You're playing on the blue sheet. The reference number is S3. It's game number 5. The numbers are 85, 45, 73, 39, 40, 33, 24, 60, 47, and finally 56. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Is the appearance of your staff important to your business? It's the first point of contact for customers when entering your premises. At C&M Embroidery in Letterkenny, they have a huge range of clothing covering all areas of the workplace. It's widely known that customers warm to and trust employees that present themselves well. Have your company name embroidered or printed on all your work uniforms. Contact C&M Embroidery on 07491 28097 and get your staff looking their best.
Donegal Denture Clinic, Letterkenny. Denture problems, we can help. At Donegal Denture Clinic, we customise, personalise and tailor your dentures to suit you. Call us for a free consultation on 91 25 25 3. Find us at Ballyrain, Letterkenny, beside Rawson College. Now accepting medical cards. For all your denture needs, call Donegal Denture Clinic on 91 25 25 3 or online at donegaldentureclinic.ie.
Okay, so let's do some of your comments here. Eileen Flynn, your word change is fantastic. We're so pleased with you, says a supporter there. Fair play to Deirdre. She has told the story that most of us would be afraid to tell. Another, hi Greg, wouldn't it do it? Sorry, I don't know what that's in relation to. The story, is it? It is awful, yeah. Hi, Greg. My elderly, terminally ill father was diagnosed with hospital-acquired pneumonia after spending a night in ED. He was admitted to an overflow ward for 5 days, but was moved to the short-stay ward the following Friday because the overflow ward was closing. After being moved to the short-stay ward, he contracted a secondary chest infection and a serious bacterial bowel infection. The ward was severely short-staffed. The nurses on duty admitted that they were run off their feet and couldn't give the patients the level of care they deserved. Dad ended up spending 2 more weeks in the short-stay ward and was in hospital for 3 weeks in total. The ordeal took so much out of him that he now needs 24-hour care at home. Morning, Greg. I fully agree with your last texter about the Brandon report not being made public and no one being held responsible. Donegal people need to open their eyes to what is going on with the HSC. The next scandal will be our elderly. Thank you. I would say, with respect to you, we're living in that scandal at the moment. Separately, people text in for all different reasons. The streetlights on Main Street in Ballybofey and Stranraer are very poor. It's very hard to see people crossing at night. I wonder if they're to be upgraded. Oh my God, can't believe they've won an award for customer service. 3 weeks ago, I tried phoning for a full week to get my mum's bill and package sorted, but never got speaking to anyone. Just an answering machine. I rang the Sinn Féin office and a lovely lady called Sinead got it sorted in 3 days. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, it was a turn up for the books, to say the very least. Okay. That is where we're going to leave it on the programme for today. Thanks to all of you who listened to the programme, watched the show. If you tuned in on social media, it's been very good to have you on board. And for all of you who texted and commented in or just sat there and listened, it's very important and we appreciate it greatly. Stay tuned because Jean Curran is on the way around the Northwest. That's coming up for you very shortly. That's after the news at 12 with Donald Kavanagh. But for me, Greg Hughes and Caroline Orr, who researched and produced the programme, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. We're back with you tomorrow morning at 9. All right then, it's just coming up to 12 noon and we cross over to the newsroom and we say good afternoon to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good afternoon. A Donegal deputy says it's astonishing that justice has never been served on person K, identified in the Greenwich report as having been involved